Jets go from making the playoffs to not even getting close, actually. And
they're executing the plays, and they are doing what's needed, necessary to win football games.
They just didn't show up again. Another team showed up to play with a game plan, executed the game plan, and then the Bills did not.
Just a couple of guys, a couple microphones, and a heck of a lot of no. It's Football on the No with Jim and Joe.
what is your guys' opinion on the catch?
No,
It was a complete catch.
I don't think so.
Absolutely.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the No. I am Jim McPhee. We've got Cody over there in the corner. Of course, alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Noodles? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the No Show, where you, the fan, become the show. That's right. Be in the know, and why don't you do us a huge favor? Help support this great channel that we have going on here and this great football community of ours by heading over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, also hit the notification bell, let you guys know when we go live. And as well, you can follow us anywhere you get, that's right, your podcasts. iTunes, Spotify, you name it. Just drop a follow there as well and take us along with you. Simple as that.
Take us along for the ride. Absolutely, Joe. I mean, what a ride it's been. I mean, we're on like 6 years now or something like that. It seems like been doing this forever, but it's amazing, and we love the
second
sport
nature
so much,
at this
so,
point.
Yeah, just about. You know what I'm saying? But
case
now
for
we
me.
have Cody alongside with us. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah, and so you know what? It's almost draft time. It's coming along. We're going to talk about team needs in just a little bit, but I found something interesting in looking through some articles today, and I found out that just as of yesterday, that New York State, the Regents now had passed a new law which prohibits the use of Native American names, mascots, imagery in all public schools now, Joe.
No kidding.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting here because we've seen you know, the big thing with the Washington Redskins happen and go down and stuff like that, and you know, about, you know, Native Americans. And that name has always been kind of challenged for a long time throughout, you know, it's being there. But now we're seeing this trickle effect happen now to local schools. Our children now are facing these things here, and now these mascots are changing. We've seen them change a little bit too because of sensitivity and slightly, you know, decrease the imagery and stuff like that, and even in mascots. We've seen it with the Cleveland now Guardians with baseball. But now it's official by the New York State Regents that now they have to, and by the end of 2024-2005, all schools need to change from this. But now it's something different from them that they have to go into, to where even superintendents of schools are trying to figure out and follow what guidelines that the state needs to set aside for them and what is actually acceptable without changing so much. Because we've seen teams like, I'm from Able Park, we had the Warriors. And of course, it's gone from having, you know, a Native American up there, you know, jumping around with the tomahawk, to the spear that's sort of like your Seminoles, Florida State Seminoles. So now will we just be Warriors and it's just blank? I'm not sure. So it's a little different now. But now states are actually taking notice and making it an actual rule now.
Yeah, I disagree with all of it. I mean, don't change something that's part of tradition. I mean, that's really what it is. What it comes down to. I know, like my alma mater with Columbia High School, like they're the Blue Devils, and they've tried a couple of times to change the name, change the logo, but it, you know, drastically failed. Like parents, students, all voted it down both times unanimously, and it never got anywhere, never gained any ground to change the name. So I still feel like a lot of the traditionalists, you know, maybe parents that went to that school and their kids are going to the school, or just students altogether, they're going to resist the change. They're going to resist the change because it's always been there, because that's all they know. And any of the names or logos that they use, it's all tradition. It doesn't mean any harm to like, whether it be a tribe or Native Americans out there. Like a lot of times, like even the Washington Redskins, when they were with the Commanders, when they were called the Washington Redskins, there were actual Native Americans. The reason why they had that face on as the logo back then was an actual chief from a real tribe, and it was paying homage to him. Mm-hmm. And his family, when they decided to get rid of the Redskins and got rid of the logo, they were a little upset. They were like, "Oh, you were gracing my father with honor, and now you're going to get rid of the logo. You're going to get rid of the name." And it was a pride thing for them. So it's not in all cases. I get it, but for the most part, it's all in honor. It's all in homage to the name and the logos that they choose.
Yeah, you make a lot of good points when you're bringing that up, Joe. I think this is just kind of what we're going to keep seeing with the increase in like cancel culture and all that stuff, because the people who are complaining about this, I can almost guarantee you, are not people of like Native American descent. It's other people who are like, oh, well, if you look at it this way, it's kind of offensive to them, right? And it's like, these aren't the people, these are like the Karens. These are the people who it just doesn't affect at all. But they will keep complaining. They'll keep wanting change to anything that could even like kind of offend at somebody out there.
Yeah, I know what you're saying though too. I mean, again, I've seen it. I'm on my end again. Like I said, I'm part of the Avo Park Warriors, and Blue Devils. I mean, but who's going to be? Is there a devil out there that's going to be offended by Blue Devils out there? I mean, I understand what you're saying, Joe.
Yeah,
without poking fun so much.
The biggest thing of that for Devils is like it's anti-religious.
Anti-religious.
So you might have some people that are religious, but like, we don't really want that. And that's kind of been the big. We've even seen it in some college teams have changed the names. So you said even like that they wanted to change the names to like the Goose or the Geese or whatever. We've seen some of these teams that were something like that, and they've changed their name completely to like the Mongoose or something like that, something different that's not a very harmful type of animal or whatnot. But who knows? But what's going to happen now? I've seen this happen with multiple states. So once this goes into effect now for us here and now other states alongside it, will there be more pressure? I just wonder about some of these other teams because now they're going after not only because I understand with the big nose and everything, mascots like the Cleveland Indians, calling them Indians. They're not from India. They're Native Americans. I get it. What I mean? Chief Wahoo, all that stuff. But you do have the Kansas City Chiefs who do have an arrowhead, right there as part of their logo. Right. And some of these schools are removing some of that type of stuff. Which is ridiculous.
Any kind of thing that resemblant to that, which, again, I think on the other hand, without, poking fun or whatever, being extreme, I think at times people got to realize that it's even honoring in the Native American tradition, and even that, there were these people here that were the people before settlers came and things like that. And the fact that they had used arrows and to hunt and do things, and they were real true warriors and about their heritage. So I think sometimes with some of it, we're going to erase some of that history, I think, with other places that and things that go on in media to bring up, awareness about other cultures. I don't know about how much it's going to be taught in schools anymore, and the fact that they're erasing some of this culture from some of these teams, where I think it's like an honorable tradition, and you kind of honor that type of, basically heritage.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing saga. It's been for decades, really. Like anybody that had an issue with any of the names or logos that they might have used, it's been an ongoing battle, and it's not going to ever stop. And we'll see how it all hashes out. Like I know New York State is trying to force the issue and make you convert. Change your logo, change your name altogether, change your colors even. That's the other important part, is now you have to change not just the logo, not just the name, but now you got to change your colors. In a lot of schools, most of them have all their colors all over the place. Yep. So now you're asking the expense to change the logo, change the name, and the expense to just repaint everything. Like that's a whole other issue. And with as high as the school budget is and taxes are way up, come on. Like, who's going to pay for it? The taxpayers. You know what I mean? So, and that's going to be a critical thing. And that's
the families, again, because there's a lot of fundraising.
Right. That's why even with fundraising, it's not going to even touch it.
Oh, like, absolutely.
The bigger thing is that's why it's going to get voted down all the time. And if New York State is going to force you to change everything, well, what you got money for us? You're going to just shell out money in order for us to change a name or change a logo, colors and all that? It seems a little ludicrous to me. I think it's over the top. And, if there's any way to fight it, if there's any recourse that any school could have, I would take it.
And a note that it is just for public schools, by the way. So any private school could still keep that type of name and stuff like that. But a lot of those private schools, again, are religious schools and things like that.
I'm going to create a private school and name it the Cokeheads.
Cocaine Bears. There we go. We are the Cocaine Bears.
There we go. You can't touch us.
I'd go to that school.
All right, so I thought that was interesting. I saw in the headlines. What are the other headlines that happened this past week here? Jalen Hurts now signs a 5-year extension for $255 billion extension for the Eagles. Now the highest paid player there, but again,
Ever.
Yeah,
Yep.
right
Ever.
there.
Something history.
And this is what happens now. Something like this. He makes it all the way to the Super Bowl with his team. It was funny, just a year removed, Cody, from question marks and what this guy could be a true starter, and get some weapons. So now we have some weapons. Let's see what we can do. They go as far as the Super Bowl, and they could have even won that game.
Sure.
And now look at the big contract he's getting. A year we weren't sure. We had question marks. Now he's the highest paid.
Absolutely. And that's the crazy thing is the amount of money. We talk about the Lamar Jackson issue, and Lamar wants to get paid and he wants it fully guaranteed and what have you. Listen, take some notes, Lamar, because Jalen Hurts, listen, he didn't agree to a fully guaranteed contract, but there's a lot of guaranteed money. There's close to $180 million in guarantees. Now, in order to get, he's going to get it no matter what, because it's not like the Eagles are going to move on from him after another year. You know what I mean? Because he has he has half of it covered the first year where he's going to get paid. Then the next year, it kicks in if he's still on the roster. Of course he's going to be. So he's getting that money. So, good on the Eagles because they obviously recognize, yep, he's legit. He's our franchise quarterback. We're moving forward. We want him to be our quarterback because we already have a phenomenal team. Let's just keep the ball rolling. Let's keep everybody happy, cohesive, and let's keep moving forward. So good on the Eagles to recognize that and to make it happen. And as far as Lamar Jackson goes, this is the thing. You have to take a step back. And like now, all the teams now, because he got the highest, Jalen Hurts now has the highest contract paid. He's a quarterback. Look at Lamar. He didn't get fully guaranteed. He got mostly guaranteed. And maybe that's something that you need to reconsider at this point.
Yeah, it's funny we're only like a year removed from everyone thinking should they just get rid of this guy? Should they look for a quarterback in the draft? And everyone was just questioning Hurts year in and year out. I never fully understood it because if you actually go back, look at how he was playing, look at his stats with the supporting cast, he's been pretty good since he came in the league. So it's nice to see him finally getting some recognition. Highest paid, I don't know if I'm too on board with that because I know previously one of those super mega deals we saw was Mahomes with that huge long-term contract, and he had multiple insanely elite seasons back to back to back. We've only seen one super elite season from Hurts, so I just hope that he can keep up that high level of play and we don't see a bit of a downhill turn from this point on for him.
Right. And I mean, but that's you bring up a good point here on the fact of the whole baby Lamar should not ask for all that guaranteed money, on the one thing. But that him and his agent, well, basically himself and his mom, and then even Joe Burrow, they're all looking at this now. They're like, all right, this guy set the market even right now. Jalen Hurts, I think I'm better than Jalen Hurts. And a lot of other people out there, if you look at it too, you're going to look at this around the league, and be like, good for him and stuff, but Jalen Hurts, the highest paid, that doesn't sound right. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? No, and that's what it is. And because again, what you've heard already before, what you've actually been able to see, and Cody knows, he's with Jalen Hurts. I've kind of had to be a defender, and I hate the Eagles, but I've been a defender of Jalen Hurts. Again, I just had to give him a little help. I saw him starting to develop, and it looked pretty good for him. But again, when you talk about money, it's tough to say, hey, this is the highest paid, but pretty shortly he's not going to be. And this is where the benchmark is. Joe Burrow is going to ask for his deal, but I think, again, he might be just waiting out and see what Lamar does. Now, Lamar, he at least has an MVP, league season on his belt here. He is probably the most valuable player on their team at this point. Without him, who knows what the Baltimore Ravens are? He's their whole identity. So what will this mean for him? And does he take, less guaranteed money here? And how much more is it going to be above this Jalen Hurts deal?
It's not going to be above the Jalen Hurts at all. I'm telling you right now.
We'll
it's
see.
Not going
I don't know.
Lamar's
It
down.
won't be, because here's the indicator. Baltimore was perfectly capable of paying him 3 years extension, fully guaranteed, $130 million. He turned it down. But that was I think it's the only way he was going to get fully guaranteed, is if he was willing to take a little less, but short term, 3 years, $130 million. You have to also prove to Baltimore, if you're Lamar, you got to stay healthy every single year. Yes, it hasn't been any kind of major injury, but he has been injured. They're all been mild sprains for the most part. Every single year he gets one. So, and with the problems with a mobile quarterback, you're exposed a lot, and which is leading into him getting injured every single year. So unless you plan on changing the offense and making him more of a pocket quarterback, and I know that's not his game, and it would hinder him, because quite frankly, that's the reason why he's so dominant. That's the reason why he became an MVP of the league, is because he's so unexpectedly just a natural athlete that in open space, nobody can touch him. He shakes people out of their cleats and they fall down to the ground. He just makes the league look silly when he's out running. And if he didn't have that part of his game and he was just coming in as just a quarterback, I'm telling you right now, I had doubts about him coming into the draft. And when he got drafted in the first round, late in the first round, I was like, I don't know how this is going to play out. Unless they change the offense, it's not going to work out too well. So that's what they ended up having to do. Now you put him into this situation where, he wants big time money. He wants to be one of the highest paid, one of the elite contracts out there. You have to prove it as a quarterback, because that's really what your position is. And so far you haven't been able to make all the elite throws, make the better decisions, hit in tight windows, be super accurate. He's not there. And if you're mostly a mobile quarterback, but you're an average quarterback talent in the pocket, that's a problem. And that's where the big divide is between Baltimore and Lamar. Because Lamar thinks he's this good, and Baltimore's like, quarterback, average. So we're not going to pay you like an Aaron Rodgers. We're not going to pay you like, Patty Mahomes. We're not going to pay you these elite contracts because you're not doing the same thing as them. With your legs, of course, that's what sets you apart. But honestly, you're going to have to dial it back, because now he's actually, he almost has no leverage at this point, because Baltimore would love to have him back. I know they want him back. I know they would love to have him back, because, listen, that whole offense is about him. So to bring in someone else at this point, they got to start over. So Lamar, dial it back, man. Go work out a deal with them. Hire an actual agent, for God's sakes. I mean, that's another big problem that he has. And I understand, okay, agents take 10%, but big deal. The amount of money that you're going to make, it's really not going to hurt you. So do your thing. Get back on the telephone. Call Baltimore back up. Hey, let's get this thing done here.
I mean, if he wants the deal, do what Hurts did this season and go out and earn it. You don't have the playoff success. You're coming off your shortest played season of your entire career, and then you're like, hey, I want to be the highest paid now. I know, when you guys needed me in the playoffs, I wasn't really feeling it, and I was still kind of hurting, but give me some money now, please. What I can be a couple seasons ago. It's that's not how this works. You don't come off the worst season of your entire career and go, all right, it's time for me to be the record breaker. You want that money, sign a short-term deal, go and earn it, and then maybe restructure when you have some leverage. Because right now, they're not going to pay you record-breaking money when you're not a record-breaking quarterback.
Right, and that's the other thing too, is he wants fully guaranteed. That's not going to happen. Like, just forget about that. It's never going to happen again. Cleveland screwed it up when they just signed Deshaun Watson. The whole league erupted and got pissed off at them, and that'll never happen again. No owner on earth will ever do that again. So I have to point this out too. Jalen Hurts, right? We just got done talking about Jalen Hurts and his major contract and everything. Guess what? Jalen Hurts was drafted in the second round. He was drafted midway in the second round. Lamar got drafted bottom first. What do you think? And here's the other thing too, is as much Hurts took a little flack in the draft, some people thought that he didn't deserve to get picked in the second. Some people were like, he's a third or fourth round pick coming out. Because there were some questions with, his accuracy a little bit. Maybe a little bit of mechanical work that he needs, but he had the body type, he had the mobility, and here he is now getting the highest contract of all, and is proving all the doubters wrong. So Lamar, maybe you do what Cody just suggested. Maybe you just shut the fuck up. Go get your go get a deal done. No matter what, you're gonna get paid, but maybe not as much. But just go get the deal done. Do a short-term deal. You're 25 years old. Do a 3-year deal, lock it up, play for 2, and if you can stay healthy for 2 years and give Baltimore back what they're looking for, then your third year, now you can be like, hey, let's work on a big-time deal now.
Shut up!
Yep.
Silly woman.
There you go. We actually got our first comment coming in for tonight. Mr. Brandon DeCapita.
What's going on, brother?
It said, Eagles put too much
Brother in the
into
house.
one player. Hurts is good and had a great season, but at a heavy cost over the next 5 seasons.
Yeah, but you know what? I think they've done a phenomenal job with orchestrating this contract, because that guaranteed money, as big as it is, the later part of those years, they're not going to be so crazy. They're going to be kind of light at the later part of the year. So, yeah, initially, first couple of years, going to hit them pretty hard for sure. But then those last 3 years, they're not going to be paying nearly as much as some of these other quarterbacks that they're going to make, looking forward.
Yeah, and some of these guys that they have currently are locked in for a few. So, again, if they
Young team,
made it
too,
as far as they did
most
this
part.
season, that's what they're trying to do, is make another comeback and another run to do it. And it's funny here, too, is because I haven't heard so much debate with this contract as much as like we did when we talked about Dak Prescott wanting to be one of the highest paid. Remember when we talked about that? With the whole situation? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, there was a reason why.
yeah, I know, but it's just funny because there were questions about Jalen Hurts and what his ability he could do and stuff like that. But I think I still
We didn't have any
I
questions on
didn't
him.
have a problem with it, and that's the thing. It's
It's more the professionals.
right, and now when I look at it too,
so-called
again,
experts.
it's like it's funny because I had a harder time saying, well, Dak, I don't know, he's not worth it this much. But when now Jalen Hurts getting paid, I'm like, I mean, I understand. I don't think it's the right thing, but I understand it, and it is what it is at this point. And they did what they did. He's made it farther than Dak Prescott has, I guess, then too. But
Yeah, and that's the thing.
and he showed more, I think.
The
so
reason
far.
why we were debating that Dak Prescott deal is because look at him. We knew he wasn't as productive as
And
everybody
more injured.
was projecting him to be. Banged up all the time. Then when he comes back, he's not that stellar quarterback that the Cowboys thought he could have become. He just never amounted to anything. And you're looking at guys like Cooper Rush coming in and lighting the league on fire as a backup quarterback, and it's like, wait, it's got to put you back in your seat and be like, wait, did we do the right thing? Did we? I know we needed a franchise quarterback, but was this the right move? And it's showing you it wasn't. He turned the ball over in the last 2 seasons a ton. Had the most interceptions thrown as a quarterback this past year. Beat out Derek Carr. In Derek Carr's worst season, he got beat up by Dak. So
He didn't even play the whole season.
Dak Prescott was just it's insane to me how he got that $40 million on average a year deal, and now he's locked up with the Cowboys, and now the Cowboys are like, what to do? Do we draft Hendon Hooker this year? Like, could that be a possibility? Because maybe they do need to look for the future yet again. Because the answer isn't Dak Prescott. You paid him a boatload of money, and now just like the whole deal with Zeke, Ezekiel Elliott, that big contract that they paid him.
Yeah.
They got out of it, but not unscathed. I mean,
Yeah.
they had a lot of guaranteed money still has to be paid to Zeke in the remainder of that contract. And, man, I don't know about the future for the Cowboys, but it's not looking too good contractually.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's something, again, it made the headlines. We'll see what happens with these other quarterbacks, that are looking for new deals. Joe Burrow, again, another guy who's been very explosive in his first couple of years.
His money's coming.
So his money is coming. So we're going to see these guys break the bank as we keep going here.
All right, before we move on, though,
sure,
but now that
sounds
you brought that up.
Absolutely.
Here's the other thing, too, is when is it enough?
When is enough?
Because the quarterback contracts, as far as I'm concerned, are getting way out of they're getting way out of bounds here. They're going through the roof. They're going, and it doesn't seem like there's a cap. So that's the biggest issue. Is like they capped the running backs. They're like, all right, that's it. Okay, no more $14 million contracts. We're done now. We're not paying running back squat anymore. We're going to reset the market. Everyone's getting lowballed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When's that going to happen for quarterbacks? I understand
I
it's
don't
the
think it's
most.
going to.
I think it has to.
We say it has to, and I think we've been asking this a long
It's
time
tough
when
with
we've been talking.
because
QB.
here's the thing. Okay, quarterback or not, if you're paying, let's say Jalen Hurts, he gets paid this kind of money, right? And you can't predict the future with this guy. Like, he's been doing great. I think he's going to continue to do great because that's what is trending towards, greatness. But going forward, let's say career-ending injury happens, season-ending injury happens, comes back, isn't the same. Like, we've seen this happen before. What are you doing over there?
Nothing.
Lost
What?
my mic.
It did?
Yeah.
How?
I don't know. There it is. Back. It's back.
That's weird. No, I heard
Cut
you.
me
You're-
off.
You're, no,
Yeah, I
you
can
know,
hear
you were
you.
coming. You're fine.
No, my mic cut out. I don't know
Weird.
why. It was like maybe my
That
headset.
is strange.
It might have been the headset.
But,
'cause I can hear
yeah.
you pretty clear.
Interesting.
Anyway.
Anyway,
So,
Moving forward.
okay.
but that's the thing is like these contracts, I think they're getting out of hand, and they're at the point now, like Brandon was mentioning, a lot of money all thrown in for the first 2 years at least, and that's going to really critically cut back on what you can do cap wise, because come next year, the Eagles, they might have to let guys go now. They might have to let some vets go, guys that they wanted to bring back that they just can't afford to bring back. And that's going to hurt your team overall. So at some point, I think there absolutely has to be like where the owners get together and be like, all right, listen, going forward, guys, it's okay to give your quarterbacks a raise, but let's try to keep it down a little bit. Let's not shoot for $300 million. You know what I mean? Because right now we're at $255 total million for Jalen Hurts. When does it end? When do you put a cap on it? Mm-hmm. Because cap wise, I mean, the best thing that any quarterback has done is Tom Brady. What did Tom Brady do for most of his career in New England? He kept it low. Mm-hmm. He's like, you can pay. Hey, I'm making $15 million a year. I'm comfortable with that. I want you to use the rest of the money and make this team as badass as you can. Mm-hmm. And then look at how long they were successful for. Now you're not seeing that. You're seeing all these quarterbacks that are playing at a high level saying, "Hey, pay me. Forget the team, pay me." So at some point, these quarterback contracts that are so highly paid, it's going to come back to hurt the team overall. Mm-hmm. So at some point, I hope that there is some kind of a cap put on these contracts.
All right, yeah.
You
took
added,
the words
Cody?
right out of my mouth.
Oh, well,
That's-
I just want to say quick again too. We've talked about this, and that's where I kind of had a problem with college players being able to accept money and being things like that. It wasn't even the fact that they're using their likeness. These players, are the names of the team, blah blah blah. They should be able to get something or whatever. Well, they get a scholarship already, to go to college. Most of them, stuff like that. But that kind of starts it early because if they feel like they should be able to get this, make money to do that, now you're seeing some of them back out of the Senior Bowl, blah blah, or this and this. I'm going to take a year off and just work on the the draft until I get drafted.
Well, they
or
don't
whatever.
take a year off.
Well, a lot of them take for a long time,
Some
especially if they
guys
get banged
have.
up a little bit. They just sit out.
Not a
But you'll
ton of
see them
people.
sit
I
out
don't
until they go. Well, basically, I'm saying is that they get selfish and about themselves now earlier. And you see even some of these high school players to where they, bringing up who they want to commit to and what they're going to do and all this other stuff. And I think it breeds this greediness all the way through. And I agree that there should have been a cap a while ago, that they should say something. You're starting to see it with ownership with baseball, because again, baseball was one of the biggest offenders and just handing out massive contracts to
They
everybody.
still do it.
For some too, but some now they realize with some certain positions that maybe, you know, we're trying to cap this a little bit here and try to hold it down.
The problem with baseball is until they actually have a cap.
Oh yeah, it's always going to be.
There's always going to be a team that overpays for a player or two.
Yeah.
Like it's going to always continue to happen in baseball. There's no getting around it.
Right, and then they follow the NBA, and the NBA is one of the worst offenders too, as well, with the money and what's going on. And missing even to have the players have more power than ownership in the league itself. That's scary, you know what I mean? Because it leads you into they're all not business people. You know, I mean, they're basketball players. Some of them, you know, dabble in business and other ventures. So, you know, that's what they tell you to do when you get into the league. But, you know, they shouldn't be running the league. The league is run a certain way by certain people for a reason. And when they become bigger than the actual league and the team, it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Brandon says, he's like, there's going to be a point where quarterbacks make up too much of the total salary on a team and cash strap any off-season plan. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, what are you going to do? That's what I mean. That's where it's inflation. And then what the team's going to ask for more money? They're going to ask for a bigger salary cap then? You know what I'm saying? It's just like, hey, we need more money to spend than this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It also said hockey players are the toughest, most athletic people in sports, and they get paid the least.
Yeah, it's because the sport's not as popular.
Right.
So there's not enough money kicking
money.
around. And that's the problem, too, because they know it. The players know that the league has so much money circling around. So
That's
they're
the
like,
crazy
we want a
part.
piece of this.
Crazy part, too, is the reason why hockey isn't as big, or I say it's still popular, but I think it's the media money that other sports get that the hockey doesn't, because hockey's not on national TV all the time. Like, you might have, like, Wednesday night hockey matchup, you know what I mean? And that's it. Like, there's not a big push media-wise that's, you know, spending media dollars in that sport to actually catapult them to become one of these bigger ones. And I think that's what really hurts them. I think the popularity is still there. I mean, they're selling out, you know, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 seats every time there's a hockey game. It's just the media dollars aren't there for them, so they're kind of like on the back end of sports. Still.
Yeah, I think it's on both ends. It's just, I mean, you don't get to see them enough on TV. They used to even be on NBC. Now they're once every holiday or something like that, and then the rest is NBC's
The
sports,
Winter
which
Classic.
some people don't have it. You know what I mean? You have to really go deep in your cable, you know, channels to find it, and that's a problem because they don't get enough exposure.
Yeah. Going back, I mean, just going back to like the college players and the greediness and whatnot. I have to say, like, there's something about the student athlete that it's been overlooked for quite a few years. And yes, they do get scholarships, not all.
Yeah.
And I feel like this helps out some of those players as well that are not getting noticed or not getting some kind of kickback for major colleges that make millions and millions of dollars off these kids. I mean, they just make a ton. Ticket sales, merchandise, all likeliness to them. Even how good they play on the football field. You know what I mean? So I think they deserve some kickback. I do believe that this is the right thing to do. And then for them going into the NFL, you know, that's where it becomes more about the agent. You know, and you know agents are going to push for higher value always because they get that 10%. More money that they get signed to a contract, more money they get kicked back to them. So I think overall what you're seeing now is just a whole different aspect in mindset from the players. I don't think it's necessarily greed. I think it's a bad term to use for them, but I think it's more about everybody is in competition with each other in terms of contracts. Everybody's like, you know, I believe in myself. I think I'm better than that player that got X amount of dollars. So that's kind of where I want to be at least close to, or I want to supersede that. So they're not thinking team financials, and nor should they. Because if they're playing at a high level for whatever franchise, they deserve to get a raise, just not overdo it. And they're not thinking that way. They're thinking like, hey, you know, I outperform most of the league at my position, so I think I should get a good contract. Then his agent takes over from there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like the players in the negotiation table and saying, hey, you know, I need to get paid more, like a lot more, like more than you can afford. Like, I don't think that's it. I think it's more
Sometimes
the.
it is.
I think it's no. It's more the agents. Really, the agents are the one that are taking.
because
taking
that's
that
what their
over.
job has to be. Yeah, but
Absolutely, and that's it. So, and in a nutshell, the agents are the ones constructing these contracts. And then when they call the player and be like, "Hey, I got this deal. This is the best deal I can get you. 5 years, X amount of dollars. We got to sign this." And the player's like, "All right, I'll be right over." You know, they're really not involved in that whole negotiating for money. So, Eagles, good on them. I think it's a good contract for what Jalen Hurts has provided for that franchise. And going forward, let's see where all these other contracts go, because next one that's got to fall, I think, is Lamar. I think it has to happen. Like, now that you actually have like a gauge now. Like, you can bring it back to Lamar, but like, look, this is Hurts' contract. Okay? You're asking for this. That's more than Hurts got. But what did Hurts do for his franchise? And I know it's not a single player thing. I know it's a team game, but he helped the Eagles get to the Super Bowl. We haven't been there in a long, long time. So until you get us to the Super Bowl, we can't match a contract like this.
well, he can also defend what weapons do I have besides that?
You got a lot more now, so you got no excuses.
so.
You got no excuses now. You got more than just a tight end. You actually have a receiving core and a tight end to throw to, and a running game. Lamar, wake up.
All right.
Lamar. All right, so there you go. Jalen Hurts gets his deal, and so next up, we've got on the docket here. Now, teams have been contacted the 49ers looking to potentially trade for Trey Lance. Now, we heard via Ian Rappaport. And I think that's pretty interesting, too, because at first, when I first heard it, too, is almost like the 49ers even were seeking trades here to probably do it. But that's not exactly the case. It's just that teams have actually reached out to the 49ers and said, hey, you know, with what's going on with, you know, your quarterback situation, now it seems like you're sold on him, you know, and now you've got Sam Darnold here in the backfield now too. That's a good backup. What would you give for like a Trey Lance and things like that, you know? And we know Trey Lance, they went out and got him early, you know, a few years back. And
Third overall?
Yeah. And again, has been sitting behind Jimmy Garoppolo now his chance to start. But now again, you've got the situation with Brock Purdy, you know, the guy that came in last year and stuff, and now dealing with an injury. He said he's going to start throwing around June, but might not be ready for day one. But what's going to go on? The 49ers have not openly said that they are willing to trade, but they have taken phone calls. So will we see something like this happen on draft day? This could be one of those situations, depending on what somebody's going to give them. But again, what are you going to get? I mean, we just saw a guy like Allen Robinson just swap, you know, for like 7. They swapped 7s, and the Rams picked up some of his contract here for a guy that really was irrelevant too, and just some team trying to dish somebody away. I think the same kind of value, maybe more than that, I guess, for Trey Lance, because you still have the unknown. So basically, low risk, high reward. What do you think, Joe?
I mean, honestly, with this whole situation, there's been several teams that have called. I mean, I can only imagine maybe Tennessee Titans have called for teams that are picking like where Tennessee is at 11 and lower, like maybe even Washington. I mean, I know they got, you know, Sammy there at quarterback, but I don't think he's the he hasn't proven yet that he's going to be the future for that franchise. They could use another guy put in there for competition reasons. But the Titans as well, they've been rumored to trade up to maybe as high as 3, maybe even entertaining 2 if they want to give up all their draft picks. But again, for teams that are picking lower and maybe don't have a shot at the top 4 quarterbacks, we don't know how this draft is going to end up going because it's absolutely insane right now with all the rumors that are being swirled about. But I could see like maybe Tennessee's calling the Niners just to touch and gauge like what they would ask for or looking for in terms of draft compensation. I don't think it's definitely not going to be a first round pick. And if it is, it's got to be a conditional following year, like a 24-25 conditional first round pick. If that's kind of like what they're looking for, if anything, it's going to be a little bit lower than that. It's going to be like maybe a second or third this year to get the deal done. Because of the unknown with Trey Lance, because of, the unknowing, can he fit in just any offensive scheme? We talked about that too, about him coming out in the draft, and we never expected him to get picked 3rd overall. I'll tell you that much. We had Mac Jones going to the Niners at that point, and you think they, looking back, they just kind of screwed up? Yeah, probably. Mac Jones would have fit that offense better, and so now they're at the standpoint of like, hey, we screwed up. We admit it. We're going to take some phone calls and see what we can get for Trey Lance. I don't think there's going to be a lot of interest in him. I think there's probably maybe only 2 or 3 teams at most calling about his services. And the other thing is compensation. It's a hard thing to agree to, as you can see with the Jets and the Packers right now. They are nowhere near close yet on agreeing to compensation. So for that situation, if that kind of shows you how difficult it can be sometimes, that you're so far apart on agreeing to listen, they want to make the deal happen. Both sides want it done, but they're still far apart. Whether it gets done before the draft or maybe even during the draft or after the draft is anybody's guess. But that's what you can kind of to see going forward. It's a team like the Titans, a team that maybe Washington that could and really do want a potential franchise quarterback. Maybe they believe in Trey Lance, unlike the Niners at this point. And, maybe they can make it work with the trade.
Yeah, I could see maybe a team like the Buccaneers kind of jumping into the ring there, because they only have Baker. That's not a long-term solution. Yeah, they have Kyle Trask on roster, but that's just an unproven guy who had a bit of a weird college career as it was. It's just got to be a weird situation for the Niners, though, because this was pick 3, and the absolute ceiling for this trade has got to be like a 3rd-round pick, and even I think that's too much. This guy hasn't really played. He hasn't proven anything. When given the opportunity in a couple starts, he's just played kind of mediocre, nothing great, not really anything special that I can even be like, oh, yeah, I saw his potential there. Like, not really. And then he's coming off a very significant injury. So, I don't know. If I'm a team that needs a QB, maybe I'll throw a 5th rounder, 4th rounder at maybe if I'm desperate. But other than that, I hope their asking price is low.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be because of his age, because he's going to come back from that injury. He will be healthy enough to play again. It's not like he had career-ending problem. And he has talent. It just hasn't been on tap yet. And we saw him in limited fashion. We didn't even see him for a whole year, not even really a half a year. I mean, and yeah, he struggled. He's a rookie, so that's going to happen. So for Trey Lance, it's gonna take a team that doesn't believe in him. It could be Tampa, could be Tennessee, it's got to be a team that's picking low, that doesn't have a chance at getting one of these guys. And going forward, who knows? Does it even happen? Probably not. It probably might not even happen. But the interest is out there. We're starting to hear rumors that there are a couple teams at least that are calling about him and seeing what it would take to obtain his services. But it's tricky. And you look at the Rodgers thing and how that's been stagnant for 2 months. That trade was supposed to happen probably 2 to 3 weeks after they were said, oh, we're going to trade. But as you can tell, it's not always that easy. And just imagine between the Packers and Jets, that's 2 months' time of trying to get a deal done. Just imagine 15 minutes in the draft, every pick. You got phone lines ringing off the hook. You got other teams calling for your pick maybe. Maybe they want to trade back. Maybe they want to trade up. 15 minutes is all they get. That's why you see that time dwindle all the way down to maybe even the last 10 seconds before any decision gets made, is because it's that difficult sometimes to get a trade done. And a lot of times in the draft, we don't even hear these phone calls, but they happen every single pick, and a trade never happens. So it's difficult sometimes. It takes 2 to tango, and it's all about compensation.
Boom. You had a few different phrases in that one. But yeah, it's funny too. Do they still even do the whole thing where they have to fax the thing over here when they do the trade? Because remember, they'd be waiting on the fax to finally go through to make the trade official.
I think
nowadays they probably shouldn't.
They're
have
more
that,
advanced
right?
now, where they probably just send a picture of the whole agreement, here.
They screenshot it. Here, we're good.
We're good?
So That's awesome.
NFL text back with thumbs up.
Yeah,
good to go.
So we're good. Yeah, Goodell. Here we go. Make it happen. All right. So we've been talking about the NFL draft. It's coming up again in just a week. Next week is going to be the draft. So I can't wait. Yep, Joe. We got to find a place to go watch it. Where are you guys out there? Where are you guys going to watch the draft? Let us know in the comments too. Parties going on, places to go. I mean, people going to people's houses and stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
If you notice from the intro footage, that's actual live footage of the draft and the reaction of all the Giants fans. And you saw Jimmy in there. Everybody was shocked. Even I was shocked. I'm like, I couldn't believe it. Yes. And I'm just like, I don't know what the Giants are doing either, guys.
Yeah, that was the Daniel Jones pick, right?
Yeah. Yep. Everyone's like, oh my God, we traded up for what?
Yeah, I wanted Jones.
The Eli Manning
that
lookalike.
was so high.
Yeah, so high, and now he's Danny Dimes. And now he's got a contract.
And that's the thing too about the drafts. It's all mind games as well. The Dave Gettleman at the time, who was the GM for the Giants, he probably caught wind of a couple teams interested in trading up ahead of them, and he was like, "Well, that's not happening on my watch. Watch me roll." And it happens. It happens.
All right. So we thought it'd be fun to talk about the NFL draft team needs here. We're going to go through each team.
Great.
We're not going to drag along on it though. We're just going to go through and just talk about the needs here that they have here. You're just taking a look at their roster. Let's start off with let's go to A to W here. Let's start off with the Arizona Cardinals.
Ooh,
and the Cardinals, I think for me, at least taking a look at them on paper here, I'm seeing that they probably have a gap here at corner and secondary. I would say the secondary they would need is one of their needs too as well, especially with Budda Baker wanting out now, finally out of there. But Marcus Wilson there that they have at corner too, he was ranked the worst at run defense. And also Christian Matthews too as well, the second-year 7th-round pick, just is fighting for a spot here to start here for them. So I would say their depth isn't very good here in the secondary. So I would say secondary's got to be a need for them. What about you guys?
They got a lot of needs. A lot.
Oh, yeah.
Like you could literally pick all defense. You could pick any position on defense. Offensive line needs a lot of help, especially on the interior. And then you could even go wide receiver. Because they are looking to trade DeAndre Hopkins. That's going to take away another weapon, and a big weapon too. A guy with size, a guy with height. It looks like on the roster they got a lot of short dudes, a lot of guys that are quick and fast and all that. But they're going to need another number one, a true number one, big type of wide receiver that can give them a jump there. So going forward, I mean they could use everything.
Yeah, as I look at the team's depth chart, this team's D-line has got to be one of the worst ones I have ever seen. I could turn on my Madden game right now, look at just the free agents, the guys who aren't signed, and be like, yeah, I can make a better D-line than this. This is bad. I'm a big football fan, and I don't even know who some of these guys are. This is from edge, every position. They have one kind of pass rusher on their entire defensive line. A bunch of just irrelevant interior guys. This team is just not set for the future. They need more draft picks. You're going to need a lot.
Yeah. When you even talk about a guy like J.J. Watt, who didn't even play well or enough for them leaving and being a factor, your line was pretty bad.
It's true.
Just a few years removed from being pretty decent when they had Hassan Reddick and guys there. What a difference a couple years makes, you know what I'm saying?
The tables have turned.
I will say this about the Cardinals, too, is I feel like the last coaching staff that was there, Cliff Kingsbury's, him, I think offensively, he wasn't a bad coach, wasn't a bad offensive coordinator, but I believe the defensive side, they didn't even know what to do with the players they had. They had no clue when they drafted Isaiah Simmons, who was more of a hybrid, could play safety, could play linebacker, could play edge type of player, and they didn't even know what to do with him when he first got there. They tried him out off the edge, they tried him out at linebacker. It was like they kind of moved guys around as chess pieces a lot, and they were just trying to figure something out. Okay, well, who plays good this week at what position? And by doing that, you're not really helping the player. You're not helping your own defense and your scheme going forward. So it ended up becoming a lot of chaos there in Arizona, and they just never really got the players in the right spots, So that's what they struggle with now. Maybe with this new coaching staff coming in, maybe they'll get it done. Maybe they have a better pathway for a lot of these players in their development. So that's what you got to hope for the Cardinals, and they got to hit on the draft because God knows they got a lot of holes.
Oh yeah. All right. Ready to move on to our next team?
Absolutely. Yes.
No, not yet.
Next up, we've got the Atlanta Falcons.
All right, now. Yes.
All right, there we go. There's a few different needs here again with this team. They did surprisingly well for some point a little bit last year. They were a bit
They
of
were
a surprise,
competitive at least sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's more in
And
the first half of the season. Second half, they tailed off.
right. I mean, and now the question for them has got to be: do they really believe in Desmond Ridder and what they're going to do here at quarterback for that situation? But this team is just needs a few different places. Again, sort of like Arizona. I think they need a bunch of spots on defense right now. They've put in like plug and play veterans and on the line and things like that to try and get these guys to do something here for them. But it's just like a Band-Aid until they draft some of these younger guys here. So I think defensive side of the ball, maybe even a couple more weapons too for whoever the quarterback may be. And do they do quarterback on this one?
Yeah, me and Cody had a conversation, about a week ago, a few days ago, what have you. But we were talking about, like, for our upcoming mock draft, some bouncing off ideas off each other and what. I don't think they go quarterback, honestly, anymore. I don't think they're going to trade. They're definitely not going to trade up. And if they don't do that, maybe, we don't even know, because this draft, I think, is the most unpredictable drafts there ever is or was.
Yeah.
So I think they stay pat at 8. I think they're going to look to add some defensive help and try to, rekindle what they once had on the defensive side of the ball. They used to have a really stellar defense. Grady Jarrett was part of that. He's still there. He's still producing. But as far as, some of the holes, I think they're good on offensive line. I mean, there's some guys that aren't well known in the interior that are still decent. They're not great, but they're decent. But you bring up like wide receiver still could be a need, but they could also address that later in the maybe day 2 if they wanted to. But I think they go defensive heavy, especially the first pick. They're trying to turn this team around. Now you look at what they've done this offseason. They added former Bengals safety. And they also already had AJ Terrell at corner. They bring over Case Hayward, an old veteran. Still solid, but he's capable of holding down the fort if need be. And then overall, like, really, if they wanted to, they could complete this secondary in the first round and draft a corner. Whatever corner's available, if there is a guy that they really like, they could sit there at 8 and take him, and that could really kind of bolster that secondary and kind of get them in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't know if it's perhaps, maybe a first round kind of need, but their offensive line could definitely use some fine tuning. If you look like at some of the interior guys, you have one good guy here at right guard, but then after that, you're not going to be sold on like Drew Dahlman and Matt Hennessy. These are guys you don't want to have to start day one, whether they trade back and maybe they really like someone like John Michael Schmitz. That's a conversation for later, but the options are there. These guys have done a great job in the offseason at picking up veterans and making sure, like, hey, if we can't get this position in the draft, like, we still have a very good player to put there. Maybe not great anymore, but very good players to put in outside of the offensive line. Those guys are kind of bad. But, all right, that's all I got to say about them for the most part.
That's all I got to say about that. All right, next up, we've got the Baltimore Ravens here. Again, like Joe said, they've added some more weapons here. But again, for me, for the Baltimore Ravens, again, I think they decided to try and go like defensive again. This is what the Baltimore Ravens do. I think they're going to keep adding to that situation here. And they're just going to try and help out that defense some more and keep that offense, going.
They don't have many needs. And where the Baltimore Ravens pick at the bottom of the first round, they go luxury pick. They're going to go best player available. Whoever ends up sliding to them, if they have them higher on their board, they're going to take them. And that's what happens when you have a really solid team all the way around. I think that's something that you have a luxury then coming into the draft. So whether you're picking teens, 20s, or even dead last, you're going to get a really good player, and they're just going to get even better.
Yeah, we had that problem last year when we were trying to do the mock draft for them. They're like, they're already pretty good, so like, where do they
Not
go
a whole
on
lot
this
of
one,
needs, right? Yeah.
Yeah, as I'm kind of like looking over the roster and such, I guess like their interior could use some work if I had to like poke and prod at certain positions. You know, I mean, like D-tackle, DN, they could use some more of those interior guys. Maybe someone who's a real like difference maker, not just a very solid plug-and-play player. Because other than that, I mean, their team's got great playmakers just everywhere. They've done a great job at getting more weapons for the offense. They've done a great job at making sure this defense is very much playing at a high level. So that's basically the only weak spot I could even find after looking this over.
It's one of the organizations that have done such a good job of just taking care of their needs ahead of time. You know, they've done that for years now. And you know, when it comes to offensive linemen, it doesn't matter. Oh, we lost so-and-so in free agency. That's okay. We drafted another one. You know what I mean? Oh, crap. Our linebackers are depleted and old, and they're retiring. That's okay. We just drafted 2 or 3. You know what I mean? And they all seem to pan out. Like, they've done such a great job scouting-wise, evaluating talent, and adding to their roster throughout the years. It's been remarkable, really, to withstand that type of turnover on a roster and still be really good.
All right, I guess I could bring us into the next
Bring us
one
into
here.
the next one, Cody.
So we got the Buffalo Bills coming up next, and everyone will probably be like, these guys, they're the Bills. They got such a great team already. But as I'm looking, if this team really wants to get to the next level and stop kind of getting like stuck at the final hurdle when they're just about to get to the Super Bowl, maybe help Josh Allen out a little bit. You know, right now they don't have superstar power at all at the running back position. You have, you know, a bunch of like one-hit guys who can catch and are kind of fast, guys who are hard runners. You don't have an RB1, and this is a good season where you're like a guy like Bijan Robinson could be there for the taking. Like, this could take that offense and take it to a whole new level. Or maybe if they're not sold on, you know, maybe Shakir on offense as their slot wide receiver going forward, they could look into some guys there. You know, Hyatt is probably going to be a very high-level slot wide receiver. So, I mean, these guys are going to have a lot of options.
Absolutely. And that's the thing with Buffalo. Like, they're another team. They're not as complete as Baltimore's roster, I would say. You know, where they just really don't have a whole lot of needs or hardly. Bills are a really good team. Like, they're close to what Baltimore is, where absolutely no holes. They could take best player available and really kind of just add to the you know, whether it be offensive line, whether it be defensive edge, because there's some guys that are going to be aging out. And you know what would be absolutely insane is if they were to they had Ed Oliver as their first round pick. Imagine having another D tackle that is explosive like him, maybe a little bit lighter, and Kalijah Kancey, if he happens to slip down the first round and happens to slip to them. Imagine putting those two together side by side. That would be kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about running back, you talk about the defensive side too. I think even wide receiver here too. Yes, you have Gabe Davis, who's done well for them at times, and you got Stephon Diggs. But even after that, I mean, I would like even some more depth here. And you could get a guy even later on, like we've talked about with the wide receivers when you did your top 10 list. So they can even pick up one of these defensive guys. And remember, Sean Dermott's taking over the reins for the defense this year. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see what that's going to do for these guys, because they're still great players right here
like
too.
Always.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe again get past the championship game or whatever and get to the Super Bowl on this one, because that's where this team has been, just stuck at that wall. So they're looking to go over the top here too, and so get another weapon that he can help him out here with Josh Allen, where he's even trying to say that he's now taking a look at himself and to get some longevity and not take off running so much and take some of those harder hits. So he wants to try and sit in the pocket and get it out to his wide receiver. So maybe get him another weapon on top of that.
The other thing that I'll say too is, like, Von Miller is not getting any younger.
No.
So an edge player might be in waiting for them in the first round. That way they can get ahead of the game. And usually the rule of thumb for the NFL is, like, pass rushers are so important and so needed and wanted by all teams that if you have a chance to pick one early, like a year ahead, you do it. and that way you'll never, miss a jump on that edge. So that's something else to think about too.
All right, next up we got the Carolina Panthers. Now it might be. Oh, hold on. We got some comments here. Let's go to comments quick. We got the comments. Brandon says Ritter is our guy for now. He is an Atlanta Falcons fan, and he says need edge and linebacker. So he's looking to do edge and linebacker.
Won't be linebacker in the first round.
For the draft. Well, he's just talking about needs, and that's
yeah.
what I mean.
Edge at 8
about the first round.
The one thing that I would say is like a dream scenario would be Tyree Wilson to slip to 8 for them. And the other thing too is I know Chicago was looking for another edge player too. So if Chicago wanted to really mess up, Atlanta, they could trade ahead of them if they see one of those elite players slipping down to them as well.
All right, so the Carolina Panthers here again. They traded not only 2 first rounders, but 2 second rounders and DJ Moore.
Is it hard to say?
Yeah. I'm like, man, it's a mouthful. It's a
lot,
mouthful.
huh?
So you got to expect that they are going to go quarterback here to get, the first overall. They really wanted it. They did everything to move up to the first of the line. So you'd think quarterback's it for them, and you've got Andy Dalton, the veteran there, yes, to maybe help somebody new to go in and stuff. But who knows? The sky's the limit after that, though. It could be wide receiver even, too. You don't have, DJ Moore anymore, but you bring in an Adam Thielen, a veteran, and you got DJ Shark in there now, but
And Laviska Shenault.
but nothing too scary or whatever. So they can also go wide receiver on this. But first overall pick, quarterback. Now the only question is, which quarterback will it be? And who we think it might be for our mock draft next week.
That's the whole thing for the Panthers. I'm actually kind of surprised that they pulled the trigger so early and traded up to number 1 overall. And when they did that, they obviously had in mind who they like already. But now that they sit at number 1, now they can just take their time in their evaluations and really kind of dig into all these quarterbacks and find out what makes them tick. Which one do they feel like is going to be better for their offense? Which one do they feel like is ready to play right away for them with the receivers that they have? So all the way, it's quarterback. Like there's no doubt about it. And obviously, like with the new regime coming into Carolina, maybe they weren't fans of Matt Corral. And he got injured last year, was drafted to maybe potentially be the future from the old regime. And clearly, they didn't even think twice on moving and saying, "Look, we're going to trade up to 1. We're going to get our guy. We're not going to play games with Sam Darnold, try to re-sign him. We're not going to play games and say, hey, Matt Corral, you're our guy. Let's see what you can do." They already made that decision, and you saw it from trading up. So quarterback all the way. I mean, it's just what quarterback, and that is the enigma of the draft. That's what's going to make it super difficult, because as much as everybody is saying it's Bryce Young as of recent, they're saying no doubt about it, Bryce Young canceled all his other visits that he had, so he must know that he's probably getting picked first overall. You know what I mean? And then there's the preference thing. Some people believe that Carolina isn't out of the realm of taking, I know it's shocking, but Anthony Richardson at number 1 overall because of his potential ceiling and what they believe in, what they could do with him in their offense. So, and a lot of people like myself, I still believe it's Stroud. I still believe the most accurate quarterback in the draft, a guy that's very smart and mobile when need be, and fits Frank Reich's prototype as a quarterback. So, we're gonna find out come draft day. And it should be interesting.
Yeah, I guess going away from just their most obvious, we all know what their first pick is going to be. Like, we can debate who the best guys are, but some of their other needs that maybe they'll try to address later in the draft. This is a team that could use some upgrades just to their offensive line almost as a whole. And while they've done an excellent job over these last couple of seasons as strengthening their defense and all, maybe I would like to see another actual proven edge rusher to go alongside Burns, because other than saying his name, I'm just really not a fan of Yetur Gross-Matos.
And the other thing too to keep in mind as well is different defensive scheme. Maybe they like those guys. They still could add to the arsenal for sure, but I think they also could use another corner in the second round. They could definitely go for that to kind of bolster that up a little bit more. Don't stop there. Go linebacker. Like, I don't think there's going to be guys like Shaq Thompson that's at the end of his game. You're going to have to replace these guys. So I still think that's definitely one of the younger rosters still for the Panthers, but they're definitely going to be able to address some needs. But best player available for that organization now with having a new regime would probably be the best path for them to take.
Here we go. We got the pro in the house.
All right,
There he
SWB Pros
is.
in
Yep.
the house.
Let's go.
He said hi.
Thanks, Cody. I pointed
Hi,
that out.
thanks. Oh, thanks. I couldn't read that one myself.
You're welcome.
Excellent. So we are doing the
Unbelievable.
team needs here, going through all two teams. We are right here now on the Chicago Bears, all right? The team that just traded out that number 1 pick to the Carolina Panthers. Got DJ Moore now. Now you've got Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool. That looks a little better for them now as a wide receiver room. But now what do they need? Maybe an offensive line here, too. I mean, to help keep Justin Fields up. He made a lot of plays last year, not only with his arm, but also his legs and extending the play. And I think you need to keep him protected and to make sure that you guys can have success here on that offense. They went on a fire sale last year, getting rid of some of their top defenders too, as well. But on type of a rebuild, but it looks like it's almost like a retool right now. So I think if they can get some offensive linemen to help get protection for him, I think that'd be an awful big benefit.
Yeah, they really like Braxton Jones at left tackle, played well for the time that he was there. Cody Whitehair was injured almost most of the season. He wasn't even there at left guard. At center, they signed a free agent from Green Bay in Patrick Lucas, but I would say that would be the only spot that they would look to upgrade to center, and that's something that you could address on day 2, not really have to do it on day 1. And going forward, Tevin Jenkins, the right tackle, that could use improvement. They are not bought in on Tevin Jenkins. They already tried to trade him a couple times, as young as he is. They drafted the guy and are already upset with him. So be upset at yourself. But so I think this is something where, Jenkins hasn't been, the most likable guy in camp. He hasn't been the most likable guy for Chicago, and they don't really believe in him. So I think that's a position in the first round that they could go as right tackle. Other than that, they definitely need to retool that defense. Just like you mentioned, Jim, they got rid of Roquan Smith, their middle linebacker. They got rid of an edge rusher that they used to have, and things are changing. They added a couple, low budget free agents, if you will, that could come in and just kind of plug and play for them. But the bigger additions were TJ Edwards and Tremont Edmonds, 2 linebackers that are plug and play for them. It's outstanding for them. But I would say their strong linebacker spot is a big need with Jack Sunborn there, and then other than that, you look at their corners, and Jalen Johnson, stud. They love the guy. He's their true corner there. They have some good safeties, obviously, and then one thing that I'm kind of perplexed on is, could this be something where they might look to address safety as well? Because as great as Eddie Jackson is, we've also heard rumors last year that they were going to move on from Eddie Jackson. He was part of that trade, where it was impossible being traded out. So that's something to look out for too. And then
we got CJ Stroud
Kyler
here as the
Gordon,
safer pick, is what
at nickel board was
SWB
pretty
Pro
good.
says out here. So you think CJ Stroud is going to be the safer pick for Carolina?
Okay,
All right.
right on.
Yep. And then he
What
said,
was it? My top 5 picks are Stroud to Carolina.
I assume there was 4 more messages.
I was going to say,
come.
maybe there's 4 to come.
I assume
gonna
there's
do
going to
them
be
single-
more that we can bring up as they come through.
Yeah. Cody, what about for needs for the Bears? There he goes. Bryce Young to Houston. He's naming them as they go.
Okay, there. All right, so for here, let me switch the camera real quick.
So Bears.
All right, so for other needs, I mean, you guys pretty much touched on just about all of them. This D-line just as a whole is just going to be the main thing that they're going to want to focus on for maybe the startup of this draft. You don't really have much power coming off edges at all. You don't have much power on the interior line. If they can really hit, say, for round 1, round 2, They get an interior lineman and a dominant edge rusher. This defense could actually get pretty good. You've already got the secondary. You've already got the linebacking core. You just got to really push to get this there. And I think this team, if Fields can step up, could make a huge step up this next season. All right, who we on to next after that?
All right.
Next team.
Next to it, you have the Cincinnati Bengals. Getting back to SWB's pro, his third pick, right?
Yep.
Richardson to whoever gets pick 3. Excellent. And Levi's to Colts.
He meant Levis,
Yes.
I believe. The apostrophe. got
Yeah,
put
the
in there.
apostrophe threw me off. So that's 2. Does he have one more?
That's a
He has
lot
one
of
more, right?
quarterbacks.
I don't know. All right, so there you go. Next we've got the Cincinnati Bengals. For me, maybe for them again, you're looking at a team that's pretty locked in and what they've got. Yes, they had some tough times here, offensive line still, and having Joe Burrow still take some hits. They did lose their 2 starting safeties and defense too, but I've noticed even too at the tight end situation now. You know, when you lost Azuma, you were able to get Hunter Hurst up in there, but or Hayden Hurst, but now they lost him to free agency. So I think tight end could be a possible situation here for them to go to.
Yeah, it's definitely a possible thing. I think they like the guys that they brought in, though. With Drew Sample, they re-signed him. They also brought in Irv Smith Jr., formerly of Minnesota, who they're going to give a shot as the starting receiving type tight end that they like to have. Other than that, I mean, they're pretty solid all around. And when you look at the offense, I don't think they would go that route. The only thing that I could foresee, and we all know that Joe Mixon by now, he's in a little bit of court trouble.
Yeah.
I wonder if and how long that might hold him out of the regular season. And if it does, I mean, this is also a spot where Cincinnati could look to maybe even look for their next future running back. You know, in the first round, yep, I know running backs normally don't go in the first round. They're kind of undervalued, but there's a couple of running backs coming out in this draft that are stellar, and they would be worth a first-round pick. Other than that, you look at the defense. They got a pretty solid defense. I mean, I definitely think they could add to that defense, especially in the secondary. You know, they do have Dax Hill, who they really like. He's going to take over at that strong safety position. And other than that, like, I do like their linebackers. I like their D-line. Their D-line's pretty solid. Other than that, I think it's going to be safety or running back. They're another one of those teams where could be a luxury pick. And I know not a lot of times teams pick just because of needs. They pick because maybe they want to get ahead by a year and pick a player they really like. So for Cincinnati, luxury pick all the way. They're going to take the best player available, and I think that might be running back.
All right, it seems SWB got his 5th pick in, and he said Carter to the Broncos.
They don't pick.
Huh?
They don't.
Yeah, they don't
pick
get
in
it.
the
Well,
first
not
round.
in the first round, but yeah, he's
No.
just saying about yeah. So what's he talking about?
Maybe a trade.
Yeah.
You know how much they would have to give to
Yeah,
just
yeah,
trade
right.
into the first round at that 5th spot?
Anderson
He's just
will
going
fall
through
to
all
6th or
quarterbacks,
8th.
so that's what he's doing. Okay, so he still thinks they all go in the top 10. Then I guess he's saying, or unless the Broncos are able to get Carter later on.
He said Will Anderson's going to fall to 6 or 8.
Wait,
Interesting.
Shoot, I'm so dumb.
Wait, shoot. Wait.
It's
Pause.
all good.
Pause, rewind.
We have moments all the time.
It's all right. It's what we're here
Absolutely.
for. It's a lot of fun.
I think we could.
Cody, bring us into the next one.
Come on,
Yeah,
Cody. Jesus.
I'm going. Next up, we got the Cleveland Browns. I'll let you guys start it up while I pull up some notes real quick.
Oh, great. The notes.
I'm in the middle of a yawn right now, but all right, Cleveland, they could use a couple of different things. Again, I think they go defensive side of the ball, whether it be defensive tackle, edge, safety. What do you think, Joe?
For Cleveland, this is an interesting spot for them. They brought in Amari Cooper a year ago. They have a young player that they drafted in Donovan Peoples-Jones, who they do like. And the trade. Let's bring up that trade. Elijah Moore for nothing, and they get themselves a young stud at receiver. So they got a pretty complete receiving core at this point. Their offensive line is pretty stout. Like, there's not really a weakness there. I mean, going forward, like, David Njoku kind of had a coming out party last year, was definitely more involved in the offense, so I don't see them going that route. And obviously running back, everyone's going to point, oh, well, they don't have Kareem Hunt. That's okay. They got Nick Chubb. So they're okay there. Defensive line and everything here, they did add Dalvin Tomlinson. I would say, like, D tackle could still be a need for them. They still could kind of bolster that part of the defensive part of the ball here. Linebackers, they got a lot of really good linebackers. Don't have an issue with that. And then their secondary that they've built over, like, the past 3-4 years. I mean, Greg Newsome, Grant Delpit, Denzel Ward, all drafted. You know what I mean? High. So they don't have a lot of needs to me, the way it looks. So I think the only thing that they would need to concentrate on is D tackle if they wanted to in the first round.
Yeah, I could see this team maybe going to get a second, like, actually more elite corner. Like, Newsome's okay. He's an okay complimentary guy. But if you get a good corner next to Ward, like, if one of these, like, top tier guys, because there's dominant corners, like, you get into the second round, third round, there's still going to be guys who could potentially develop into
be
number
really
ones.
good, yeah.
So they could maybe draft a guy. He doesn't even have to play right away because it's not urgent, but maybe even by, like, week 5, this guy's ready to go. He's used to NFL speed, and he hops right in to lock things down with Ward on the other side.
Yeah, it's a possibility for sure. I mean, secondary, though, they've dived into that position so much in recent years that I feel like it's time to take a different turn there and bolster up the D-line.
All right. Sounds good. All right, what we got next? Next, we got the Dallas Cowboys.
They need a new logo. I find the star offensive. Quarterback. I like it.
I had to yell it out. Why not?
Well, the thing is what their needs are and what they will go for. Sometimes I look at Jerry Jones and what they do, and they're like, man, they really went out and got the guy I wanted to get, because it was there. But there's a few different things they could do here. I look at even their offensive line and how injury prone they are. Maybe they go and try and get somebody to replace Tyron Smith, something like that. And Zach Martin doesn't stay healthy really much either. So I mean, maybe they go offensive line on this one. Joe, what do you think on the Cowboys?
I mean, honestly, they got to replace the tight end. They lost Dalton Schultz. Obviously, they couldn't afford to keep him. And from what I'm hearing out of Dallas is that they are absolutely enamored and would love for nothing else but Michael Mayer to be there when they pick. So that kind of fits with the need. It fits with the value. A lot of people view him as the number 1 tight end overall. So that's something like, we all expect Dallas and Jerry Jones, like you mentioned, to make a flashy pick. Like, go out of the box and we're going to take another receiver just because it's awesome. You know what I mean? So a lot of people I know also have been talking about Bijan Robinson, like the consensus best running back on the board. If he's there on the board, that they're like, oh, they're going to take him and have him and Tony Pollard, like a dual threat. But I just think I think that's a little overboard. I think listen, the reason why you re-signed Tony Pollard, you got him for a long term. You're going to keep him there in Dallas. Why draft and waste a first rounder when you have so many other needs? I think D tackle's a critical need of theirs. I think that even linebacker. Leighton Vander Esch re-signed with the team, but he's a guy that gets often injured. I think they could use middle linebacker, will linebacker. And then you look at their corners. That's something that they could utilize still. I know they in a trade, they got Stephon Gilmore there to go opposite Trayvon Diggs. But they could really use a really stout nickel corner for them, maybe in day 2.
All right, Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, I'll be almost surprised if they don't try to address tight end just right off the rip, because there aren't any, like, needs that really jump off the page when you look at this team. Yeah, they need a backup running back, but, like, that's not first round. That's stuff you deal with, like, round 3, maybe round 4. You find a guy who is, like, good at receiving.
Have you met Jerry,
runs
though?
Hard. I know Jerry, for all we know, would be like, I like this wide receiver. Let's get him. It's like, but Jerry, we just got Brandon. Like, why?
Right, and that's the problem with him is like he always likes to go for these flashy picks in the first round, these highlight type of, and everyone's like, whoa, hey, we didn't see that. Whoa, what an amazing pick, and they freaking cheer him on. It's like, no, we didn't address anything that could really help our team, but we got another guy that can do the same thing.
That's what they do every year. Year in, year out. All right. On to our next one. We got the Denver Broncos, who I don't even think they have a first-round pick this year.
No, they don't.
No.
Thanks to that,
I'm not talking about
I
that.
don't think even next year,
amazing
too, 'cause
trade.
They were just trading picks away for everybody. Sean Payton too, as well, just to be their coach. You know what I mean?
I think
So-
they traded the water boy as
Yeah,
well.
they
in
did.
that deal.
Absolutely. So I mean, for them again, depending, on how far they go down to pick. I think maybe on defense they can go edge rusher possibly to help out their defense on that end. But Sean Payton and those guys, they're going to try and do what they can with wherever they end up picking, and get somebody that can help out that team because Russell Wilson didn't look very good. So his first line of business is to help Russell Wilson advance in that team. But I think edge rusher, I think, would be a good spot for them.
For sure. You look at the team, I mean, they could definitely upgrade on offensive line. I mean, they have 2 picks in the second round, and the funny thing is they're back-to-back. So they could they could literally take they could take a half hour if they wanted to before they pick 2 picks. And that's the funny part of it. One thing, too, is I've heard that they're not in love with Lloyd Cushenberry, their center that they drafted a few years back. So maybe they might to look in the second round, maybe see who's available as a center there and kind of upgrade at that spot. They re-signed Mike McGlinchey, which is a huge get for them because right tackle has always been a problem for that franchise. Also, left guard Ben Powers coming over from Baltimore. That was a big signing as well. So they've really bolstered around the center spot. They have a good receiving core already. And with their tight ends that they have, with Greg Dulcich, they drafted last year, looked pretty good at times. He was banged up a little bit, but when he came back, looked like he was really starting to get the playbook down and did a good job there. So offensively, and you've got Sean Payton as the head coach now, a guy that's going to be the offensive guru for them and try to bring the best that he can out of Russell Wilson. Defensively, I think that's where they focus. They continue to focus on the defensive side of the ball and bolster that side of the ball because they've lost a few guys here and there. But how fun would it be if they were to add another decent corner opposite Patrick Surtain? I mean, that to me would kind of really encompass this defense and make it so solid. They were one of the better defenses last year. If they were able to add another corner that they really liked in the second round that maybe slid even, or someone that nobody's really thinking of highly and they love him, maybe like a Julius Brents. I know that he's more like a day 2 pick, a very tall, lean corner, and he might fit that defense pretty well. So that's something that I think they look forward to as corner.
All right.
Yeah, you hit on most of the points on there, Joe, but I could maybe see this team going, offensive line as early as possible. They've already kind of gone, that's why it's as early as possible.
It's as early as
They're not getting back into the first. I very, very much doubt it at this
unless
point.
they want to give up more picks.
Yeah, maybe.
They might on this
Everything.
one.
No, just keep sacrificing the future.
They're going to go get DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, they want to win a Super Bowl right now. They've made that very clear, and I still don't think they're going to be able to get even. They'll maybe playoffs if we see old Wilson. Not last year's Wilson. Last year's Wilson was just lost. I can blame a bit of it on Hackett, but
Definitely.
I can't blame all of it on Hackett.
Right,
But they've
right.
already gone, they went out and got Powers. They went out and got McGlinchey. Like, they are very much like, Wilson, we will protect you. Just please help us out. And their wide receivers need to stay on the field. So that ain't exactly helping, considering all 3 of them were dealing with injuries on and off last season.
Right.
And I mean, their defense is good. Maybe just like you said, strengthen up that second corner spot. It's about it for them.
All right.
What
Next
we
up,
got?
we got the Detroit Lions. Oh, wait, we've got Bob Buskey in the house with us tonight.
Early swing.
Bob.
Look at that. Bob's in the house with us.
What's going on, Bob? Welcome to the show.
What's he have to say here, Cody?
Who, Bob?
Yeah, what does he say?
No, the other Bob.
No, the other one.
Said Desmond Ritter to the Broncos with the first one.
the way
Is
to
the way
go.
to go.
There you go.
That's just a combined message.
Oh, wow. So he's thinking a trade's going to happen there. Wow. Interesting.
Oh, man, there's
so
a
is
bunch
that
of
gonna
comments
happen
back
during the draft then? Is that he's thinking that's a draft day trade?
That's
So.
what would have to happen.
Oh, we missed
but
a bunch. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they were flying through.
Flying through. We weren't even paying attention.
That's
we apologize,
Cody's job.
everybody. Cody,
I'm
you got to be
trying.
on that crap. All right.
I'm trying.
SWB Pro, he says Dallas needs a cornerback. And I don't even know. So the Broncos GM is a joke, I think.
Yeah, I see by all the kissing faces. That
Yep.
is a joke.
And he didn't just trade away the first round pick, he also traded away his dignity. Boom, there you go. Nice, I love it.
touche.
All right, so what else he says?
Who's
Bob
that? Yep.
Brusky said, F this, I want my jersey. LOL. Okay. Fact that Eagles have multiple first rounders after that insane season. Yeah, that is pretty scary, SWB. You know, that's a sign of a good franchise now it's run, too. What they've been able to do, and again, I hate to say it because, you know, I'm a Giants fan and stuff, but what they've been able to do, it's pretty impressive. You know, what they had, and the fact is that they end up getting that quarterback, too. You know, I mean, just got them some more weapons here. That great trade that they did last year's draft that blew everybody's freaking mind. And how they played this year again, and now that they have all that equity on top of it, it is pretty scary. All right, next up we got the Detroit Lions. For the Lions, for me, I think they gave up most points per play last year, or most yards per play. So I think they're going to go defensive interior on this one, help Hayden Hutchinson and those guys out here on that defense. And I think they really want to be as strong on the defensive side of the ball and really push that. So I think that's where they're going to go for their first pick here, which that they got from the Rams in that trade for Matthew Stafford here in number 6.
Yeah, and they got 2 first-round picks where they can do some pretty big damage. I think the first thing that they're going to want to attack is edge. They do play in a 3-4 scheme. Their nose tackle's already there. Aleem McNeil, who they drafted a couple years ago, he's the guy. Like there's no doubt about it at nose. Other than that, like I think they could really upgrade at that edge position. We already know Aiden Hutchinson. It was a high draft pick for them, and rightfully so. If they put another edge guy just as impactful or close to that opposite him, that's going to make this whole D line super dangerous. Other than that, I like what they've done with the secondary. You know, they've kind of gone under the radar in terms of some of their signings. Cameron Sutton, one of the best nickel corners in the league. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, coming from the Eagles, who was out there in free agency forever. He comes over now to help that secondary out as well. And Emmanuel Mosley from the Niners, a guy that kind of just went under the radar in free agency, a guy that was pretty good with the Niners. Let's see if he can continue that success with Detroit. Other than that, I see edge. I see linebacker needs through the roof. I mean, that's something that they can really address in day 2. Because from what a lot of people are saying, that a lot of the linebackers, even the top linebacker, is going to maybe slip into the early part of the second round. If that happens, they could pounce on him then. Mm-hmm. And then offensively, I think it's about time. They've done a good job upgrading the receiving core, which was a big problem. Jamison Williams, who never played last year, he's going to return for basically his rookie year this year. With Josh Reynolds and Amon-Ra St. Brown, they could still address it, but I don't think they would do it in the first round. But offensive line, I think, is the new thing where they're going to have to start to turn that over. A lot of guys kind of aging. Taylor Decker, who's often injured, maybe they look for a guy later in the first round as an offensive tackle if they're available. That's something to look for.
All right, Cody.
There you go. We got a handful of comments that were flying through during that. So let's see where we leave off. We got, I think the Eagles should pick either a D tackle or Beyond Robinson from SWB.
It's possible, for sure.
Said, I gotta go. It's later for me. I gotta wake up early for school in the morning and still got some stuff to do, but have fun, guys.
All right.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate
Thanks for
you
joining.
stopping in with
Thanks for
us.
joining and being
Absolutely.
part of the show.
And then
Awesome.
Brandon thought the Desmond Ritter thing was a very wild theory.
Wow, theory. Who knows? Stranger things
Anything
have happened.
can
Who
happen
knows,
draft
right?
night.
Anything can happen draft night.
Anything can happen, for sure.
There we go. I'll bring us right into the next team, which are going to be our Green Bay Packers.
Go ahead, start it right off with it, Cody.
Yeah. So this. Yeah. So the one
They need
like
to get the deal done.
yeah, and the deal is very obvious. That just
The
needs to
deal,
happen.
it'll get done.
This team, like, get some wide receivers. Rodgers begged for it for years, and eventually you got one, kind of 1.5 to count Dobbs. But now, like, your team, like, keep going, get some more. Because right now, all you got is Watson, who for half the season looked real good last season, but you don't got Rodgers anymore, so you don't got an elite quarterback throwing him the football. And Dobbs was like, 1 week he looks great. Next week, you think he might be injured because he didn't have any catches. And you don't want just those two, because I can barely even pronounce the dude's name that's in their slot. Samori Toure? I don't know much about him. He hasn't played much. That is a horrible idea to keep him in as your third guy. All right, I'll let you guys go over the rest of their needs. I just wanted to go off on my little tangent about their horrible wide receiver.
Thanks for
core.
announcing all of that. Great. Wide receiver is definitely a big need, but I don't think it's not at the point like it used to be. Christian Watson, we've seen
bare
him
over there.
We've seen him, do a pretty good job come in. Yeah, Rodgers, but he was getting wide open. Romeo Doubs. The one thing that I have a question about him is staying healthy. Period. Like, is he capable of it? Because if not, then you really legitimately only have one that's ready to go. I think that's a position that they might target early in the first round and just go for it. Whoever happens to fall there, and we've seen mocks and we've gone over mock drafts, and there's a wide range of opinions there. Like, some people say Smith and Jibba is going to get picked higher, or he's going to be the number one receiver taken. A lot of people have Quentin Johnston slipping. But I would be willing to bet that because of this weak receiving core coming into this draft, there might be a surprise pick at that wide receiver spot where someone that we're not even thinking as a first rounder be pushed up because of the size factor that's involved in this draft. A lot of short guys, a lot of small guys, body types. So the NFL might push up a bigger type of receiver that we're not expecting to be a first rounder up there. So that could be intriguing. Green Bay might be entertaining that as well. Other than that, Rodgers we know is going to end up getting moved. Love is the starter. Do the Packers do what they normally do and think about taking quarterback yet again to revamp for the future? It's a possibility. It's their blueprint.
That would be so funny.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if they go in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, I would say defensively, they could still add more defense and kind of just keep improving that defensive side of the ball, however they see fit.
I think not having a guy like Robert Tonyan there anymore, too, either at tight end.
Tight ends,
I think
yeah.
they could possibly go tight end here on this one, too, because that's looking pretty weak for them at this point as well. So, I mean, that would help out that offense, too, as well.
If they plan on using a tight end.
If they do.
Yes.
That would help.
That would help.
If not, just go receiver. Just go receiver.
All right, next we got our Houston Texans.
Houston
coming up.
Texans. Again, what do they do on this one? I mean, again, they could use a little of everything, I think, at this point. I think they've come out and openly said that they weren't going to go quarterback, that they're confident with what they have, but they've surprised us before.
No, I think they're going to go quarterback. I know that they're not in love with if it's not Bryce Young, they're not in love with the rest of the quarterbacks for some reason. They're like, they're not our guys. They're not our type. We don't want to even entertain that. So that's also a rumor that's going around. Obviously, we'll find out on draft day what they really think. But for the 12th pick, when they come back, if they don't take a quarterback, I still think that, that they're going to concentrate on defense. Like, they're going to really look to kind of start the clock now. Start working on building that defense up with DeMeco Ryans now as the head coach. He's going to want to start bringing in some blue chip type of players. And at 12, I think you're going to get one. Just like even with their first pick, if they don't like quarterback, they could still add an edge player, whoever that they decide is the better edge or an impactful player in that regard. So, I mean, the Texans, they've addressed corner the past couple of drafts, and look for them to kind of keep filling holes, on the defensive side. That's what I could see. D'Amico Ryans wants his style defense. He's going to want his type of players.
So a need that kind of jumps off the table, at least for me, is these guys, they have a lot of very decent wide receivers. Guys who are very good complementary guys. There's no clear number one guy, though. If you're drafting a quarterback, you're like, oh, we're getting ready for the future. Maybe bring him in with an elite weapon. Use the pick either before or after that to really give him a shot. If you like one of those wide receivers who's supposed to go in the first round, maybe take him up there. All you got is, Noah Brown, Robert Woods, and Nico Collins. All guys who are like, yeah, they're number 2s or number 3s. Bobby Trees will probably only be healthy for like 4 games. He'll have 100 yards in one of those games. And
I heard he's going to move to slot.
Yeah, then we'll never see him again after that. And there's not much on their depth chart after that. We haven't really gotten to see Mechie because of the crazy medical concern from last season.
Right, so this will be his year to shine.
Really count on. But why not? Go up there, take an elite wide receiver, have him grow with your quarterback. Oh,
if you draft a quarterback,
they gotta draft a quarterback. They've been down the Davis Mills road.
Yeah, but
it hasn't gone that great.
That's the funny thing is Davis Mills, he was an okay quarterback for them. He actually won them some games. Yeah. So there's something to work with there. I wouldn't say that that's out of the realm of possibility where they don't go quarterback and they look to build more on this defense. They could still go receiver. And I know a lot of people that have done mock drafts, they keep pushing that quarterback idea at 2. They're definitely taking a quarterback and then come back to 12 and they're going to take a guy like, Quentin Johnstone, who's the big receiver, and he could develop to be your number 1 wide receiver to pair him up with the quarterback. But now that a lot of the news that we're hearing all over the NFL, all those ideas, it seems like they're kind of throwing them out the window and they're looking to just rebuild the team. And maybe they're not so pressured to take a quarterback. Maybe they're not in love with some of these guys. So, it could go defense. They definitely got to go receiver, but it's not, guaranteed in the first round. I mean, this receiving core, I honestly don't have a first-round grade for any of the receivers. I don't think they deserve to be picked in the first round. I know that there's gonna be at least a couple, maybe 3 that are gonna get pushed into the first round and get picked, but none of them are like years past where you had a legitimate, no doubt about it. This guy's our number 1. He's gonna come in and be amazing and get picked high in the first round. So who knows with Houston? They're kind of like a wild card actually, in this draft. And I think there's a couple other teams that are like that where we think we know what they're going to go after, but because they're not ready to win yet, because they could be, just go with, hey, we're gonna pick best player available, regardless of position, regardless of need.
Yeah. All right, so think that we hopping into the next one. You got anything to say about it, Jimmy?
I think who were you talking about again? The Colts? What were we talking about?
Packers.
I was just zoning out on you. Who?
In the zone, we were on the Texans.
Oh, the Texans. Oh, hey, we're still talking about the Texans. Yeah, we can move on then. Yeah, so I was ready to talk about the Colts. Yeah.
Hey, well, if you're that excited to talk about the Colts, Jimmy,
not really, not that much. I was just basically going to say, I think at this point they've started 6 quarterbacks in the last 6 seasons. I think they got to go quarterback on this one. You got a new regime in there. You want to set your staple and get your guy. Right now you have Gardner Minshew and Nick Foles. And, Ellinger's still there. I mean, not really a stellar quarterback room right here. So why not try and find that guy here for them and move forward? So I think they go quarterback on this one.
It's funny. You look at the quarterback room. It's Gardner Minshew, Nick Foles, and Sam Ellinger.
That's what I said.
I don't know. I don't think any of these guys are worth even an opportunity to start. And that's where, the quarterback deal, they have to take one. That's where you kind of really see it. Their offensive lines, I still think they need to work on tackles. That was a big Achilles heel for them. I know they're not going to take one at 4, but that's something to really look forward to maybe in day 2 that they attack. But overall, Jesus, receivers, they don't have receivers. They don't have a complete core. I know Alec Pierce has something to work with there, but I still think they need to add to that position group. Quarterback, definitely I see at 4. They have to take one, but I don't know if they fall in love with any of these quarterbacks. I keep hearing that they absolutely love Will Levis, and that's something that's kind of like you throw it at the wall and it's sticking right now. Like that's kind of seems to be the trend that they're going to target is Will Levis. But as much as like me and Cody and we're not that high on Levis just because of the uncertainty. Because there's really not a whole lot to go off of. You go from 2 years ago and he looks amazing. This past year, he looked like butt. You know, he didn't even
like
he didn't do anything really in terms of production. And I get why. Like he really had no team around him. So it's hard to kind of project what he could be in the NFL. But some people are convinced. Maybe the Colts are, and that's where they go. But it's something to watch out for to see what direction they actually go in, because could they be a surprise pick and maybe they don't go quarterback in the first round? You know, that would be something interesting to see too.
Yeah, maybe if they hear like around the league, like all of a sudden, I know he's been jumping up draft boards like a guy like Hendon Hooker. If they figured out somehow, oh, maybe we can get this guy in the second round, like, hey, you guys, our corners kind of suck. Like their corners are just... They wouldn't even be like backups on most teams, and these are their number one guys. Like you gotta fix that position. As much as you want to get your quarterback, you need some corners too. Like this team, it's not gonna be a get a quarterback. All right, we're right back to competing again. Like they need to fix a lot. They got a lot of work to do in this draft. They're gonna be busy trying to fix this team back up.
For sure, and that's that's the hard part though for them is in day 2, you know, trying to attack that secondary. You know, see if they could do maybe go back to back and grab 2 corners. If the board falls a certain way for them and they really like 2 guys built at the same position, why not? You know, their defensive line is pretty stout. I mean, they also added Samson Ebukam coming over from San Fran to rush off the edge. So that's really nice for them. But yeah, I agree. I think this is like it's hands down. The first round has to be quarterback. Second, I think after that is where they start to maybe attack, maybe receiver in the second round, maybe corner, whatever kind of falls to them.
All right, you got anything to add, Jimmy? You all good?
I'm good.
All right, on to our next team.
All right. The
We
Jacksonville
got the
Jaguars.
Jacksonville Jags.
All right. They were a surprise team last year, man. That was pretty crazy how they went from like worst to first, making the playoffs and everything, and going nuts. But we got to see what they could do with a good coach. You know what I mean? And you know, a quarterback now finally stepping up. But I think if you look at some of the things they might need, maybe a corner, I think is a weak position for them on that defense. They have been lacking that since, you know, they used to have some of those guys, you know, the tough defenses of old. So I think they could go corner on this one.
Yeah, I mean, Jaguars, I kind of expect them to go for what a dream scenario would be for them is if Brian Branch was to slide to them. A guy that can play safety, a guy that can play slot corner. He can do a lot of things extremely well for them to kind of bolster up that secondary a little bit. Corner, I don't know if a corner of value slips down to them that low in the first round. It's possible. We've seen crazier things, but that's one thing that I could see is maybe Brian Branch slipping to them, and that's something that they would pounce on it and make the pick as fast as possible. They would absolutely love him in Jacksonville. Other than that, this is a team that also lost out on Juwan Taylor. They could go right tackle as well. That's something to look forward to. So those are two like key needs. If they wanted to go in that direction, those are two positions I would say they'd go.
All right, well, you ended up kind of taking the words right out of my mouth on that one. Joe is like, I was just about to make the point about the right tackle, so I didn't have too much of a rebuttal. So I guess we can hop into the Chiefs.
The
after
exciting
that.
Kansas City Chiefs and all the needs that the Super Bowl champion needs.
Yep.
You know, how about another wide receiver? You know, just go wide receiver altogether. But I think I think you've noticed even last year too that Chris Jones can't really do it all himself and things like that. So I think they go edge rusher on this one just to help out and get that defense, get some pressure there too, because you notice that he's been able to do some things, but when double teamed, he's the production is down, and that's going to happen a lot of times. So you need that other extra guy, I think, to help out on that. So I say they go edge rusher.
This is a crazy thing for me is at the end of the first round, they pick 31st overall. And, you would normally think like in the first round, like, oh, all the good talent's going to go and we're not going to get anything. Well, the way this draft is it's so deep that you're going to get a really good player. And you could go need, you could go best player available, what have you. I've heard some rare occasions people having them go running back again. I don't see it happening, but this is another team that could also, bolster their offensive line a little bit better. They could also go edge rusher like Jim mentioned. And honestly, they could also go, in the secondary and kind of upgrade there. So it depends what falls in this draft to them. I think they're going to make their best educated guess on where to go, obviously, depending on how the draft falls. But this is a luxury pick. The Chiefs, they don't really have a lot of needs. Could they go receiver? That's another thing that they could do. I've heard Patrick Mahomes working out with Zay Flowers. And they really do like Zay Flowers. Now, do I think he falls to them? It's possible. But again, I also think that he could be picked higher than expected. So for Kansas City, they really like. It sounds like they really like a receiver by the name of Zay Flowers, but they could also go in other directions.
All right. Well, I think I'll just end up kicking us off with the Chargers. I think we've already touched on a lot of the Chiefs' like 3 needs that the entire roster has. So we'll get right into them as I switch the camera. All right. So, looking over this roster, what they could maybe... their D-line's pretty good. Could maybe use a little bit of an infusion of youth. A little more if you don't think Mac's going to be around too much longer. But other than that, I mean, you got a pretty solid secondary. You could probably use another, like, complementary corner. You don't need a number 1 guy. But a solid guy to go opposite of Asante Samuel, who was lights out last year. That could really take that defense to the next level because you already have an offense that's, performing like week to week. You don't need to go crazy. You have a pretty good offensive line. You have pretty good weapons all around. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just take the pick. Take the pick at your, like, 1 need. Just move on from there. And I think that's corner.
J.C. Jackson is going to return from injury. So that'll be your corner opposite Asante Samuel Jr. I don't think they invested a shit ton of money in him. So, he's not going anywhere. The one thing that I could mention in the secondary is like free safety. That's something that could use an upgrade. Obviously, the pipe dream scenario would be Brian Branch. You plug him next to Derwin James. Now your secondary is looking pretty mean, pretty stout. And then the guys in front of them, they signed Eric Kendricks to play inside linebacker with Kenneth Murray. Khalil Mack off the edge. Obviously, he's aging. So at some point, they're probably going to look to maybe upgrade that edge. And Bosa. The interesting thing about Bosa to me is like he's always injured, though. Every year he's getting injured. I'm just wondering how long it takes until he gets injured and then can't come back for some substantial time. Maybe career ending. So that's something to look out for. And D-tackle. I'll say D-tackle is another big need that they still have. They have Austin Johnson, who's kind of filling in right now, but definitely could use an upgrade there. And right tackle, to me, is all day long. Trey Pipkins is not the guy for the future. If by some chance Darnell Wright is around, this offensive line is already stout and considered one of the best offensive lines. It would be hands down the best if they were able to get Darnell Wright.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. Right tackle in a defensive end as well too. I think it's a good spot for them. But also, I wouldn't mind them getting another wide receiver too, because I think the wide receivers are banged up a lot too, especially Keenan Allen. He's getting older. I wouldn't mind them getting another weapon here because we got to see what Palmer was even able to do, and he's so. So I think you get another explosive wide receiver for them. We'll even see help that offense out. So
All right, now we can move on to another team that their entire roster is basically needs. We got the Rams.
And they have no first round pick.
Their team is
Yes, they don't have any picks.
It's just bad.
Because they traded them all away.
Yes. Their defense is basically just Aaron Donald and friends. You hope that he can play every position for them because everybody on this defense is just, I think putrid's probably the nicest word I could use. The receiving core
That is very nice, actually.
is not much better. You got a bunch of backups that are following around Cooper Kupp and hoping that he can catch literally every football that Matt Stafford throws his way because they just are not elite playmakers at all. You got a mediocre offensive line. I could talk about this entire team and not be happy with a single position.
Yeah.
So
They need everything, right?
It's
and they
just
don't have picks
ugly.
for it, right?
It's one of the worst rosters coming into the draft because let's face it, they did away with like everybody. Like they did it. Listen, they went all in to win that Super Bowl, all in, making a couple trades, handing out millions and millions of dollars. Aaron Donald, please come back and play for us. Back the Brinks truck up because we're bringing you back for another year. And they did it all. They went all in, and they got it. They got it done. But we also knew on the back end of all that is that guys were going to leave. They weren't going to be able to afford to keep everybody. And those trades that happened, yeah, they ended up eventually walking out the door. So they completed their main mission to win a Super Bowl. Now it's time to pay the piper. Because of all these losses, because of this team, like I honestly think that in the war room for LA, when it comes time to pick in the second round, all they have to do is blindfold the GM and have him throw a dart at the board, and wherever it sticks, that's the player we're taking. I think that's the best way to draft for the Rams, and that's. I mean, it's not going to hurt at all.
Yeah, and you feel for the veterans here, too, that said, Aaron Donald, hey, I'm coming back. Let's do it again. Oh, now everybody's gone. Matthew Stafford, we brought you here. I got a championship. Now you're stuck with nobody again.
I honestly, I would not be surprised if Donald says he gets to the offseason and be like, you know what? I retire.
Peace. Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, and even not Sean Payton, but Sean McVay was able to, to walk away, and he decided to come back for some reason. Like,
I don't know why.
What are y'all thinking?
He should have just walked away.
And now all of a sudden he's
ended on a
like,
high note.
this would be great for me. Like, maybe I can try and dabble and see what I can create now. You
If
know what I mean?
could win with this roster,
Yeah.
I will be the greatest head coach ever.
Right? And it's sad because, again, they need a bunch all together.
Oh,
And like
so-
you said,
so
if you
much.
thought Matthew Stafford had tunnel vision before, he's definitely going to have it this time.
So much.
So, and with the fact that they don't even have a pick, they just need everything, including picks.
Including picks.
All right, on to our next team.
Vegas.
We're on to the Vegas Raiders. Now, this is a
They trade for
team-
Trey Lance.
They have worked
No.
very hard
No.
to make this team very average.
He's not a Patriot, Jim.
Yeah, I know.
No, this
Not
was
a former
team
Patriot.
that a season ago we were like, oh, they're coming off the playoff season. These guys are just going up. And then McDaniels came in and said, no. We're going back down. I'm going to sign a bunch of mediocre
He
players.
said, hold my beer.
We're going to get rid of all of the weapons, and we're just going to move from there. And right now, I mean, this team,
That is one big pile
you
of shit.
need... And Chandler Jones, he's just not Chandler Jones anymore. So you need eventually another edge rusher who can complement Crosby so they can't just double team him every play and remove him from games. You need corners to come in and help. You need a linebacker. Like, this defense needs a lot of help. And this offense is just built for mediocrity this season. You have weapons, but I'll see them, they'll be like 15th in scoring and rushing. Like, this is going to be a team that's very average. They're going to have a very average record, and it's just going to kind of stay here until something needs to change. I don't know what it is. It's a lot
Coaching
of
staff,
things.
GM,
Yeah.
the whole thing. That's what needs to change.
That's what they need. They need a new
Because
coaching
they are
staff.
driving this team into the ground. As far as the offense goes, like I still feel like it's going to be better than average. They have receivers. They have basically the same offensive line they had last year, which was rated like the 12th best offensive line. I don't know how that happened, but it did. But overall, like it's defense, hands down. Like pick best player available on defense through every round. with every pick, and that's what they need to do. I mean, this defense is so sadly terrible that they just have no starters. There's no starters on that side of the ball besides Max Crosby, really. So look for the Raiders to go heavy defense in this draft. And, I honestly have no with this regime that's in place, I think they've made all the worst decisions possible at this point. And I think they're still going to screw up the draft.
Yeah, there's more to screw up, absolutely. And again, it's like it's perfect fit for like the city of Vegas. They gambled on Josh McDaniels here, and they totally lost it all. They lost it all, and defense has been a problem for years, Joe. You can't talk about it all the time. But now that the fact that you had Devontae Adams in the house, and Hunter Renfrow when he could be healthy. You could have held on to Darren Waller, but no, you trade him away, things like that. You don't have Derek Carr anymore.
That's the crazy thing.
And then now it's all dismantled. That was the beginning of the dismantling, and now you still have a terrible defense. So.
Well, you bring up Waller, and the funny thing is they were trying to trade him last year. Mm-hmm. Green Bay called him up, actually offered a second-round pick for Darren Waller last year, and they said no to it. You think they might have want to go back and do that trade now? They gave him up for nothing. A compensatory third-round pick. So top 3 tight end going to the Giants. Giants give up a bag of peanuts.
All right. We've got Mike Tackett in the house with us tonight.
What's going on, Mike?
Happy hump day, guys. Stafford is the only quarterback on the roster for the Rams. I assume they're drafting a quarterback, right? And then he says... the Albany Empire drafted a psychiatrist for Antonio Brown. Of course, he made headlines already. Yeah, I don't think that was his fault, though. I mean, I don't know. That's all the security guard not knowing who he worked for. Like, seriously, bro. How do you not know this?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Maybe he didn't recognize him. He's an older guy.
That's it right there. That's it right there, Cody.
Known,
How do you not know who Antonio Brown is?
You work at a football stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
they work for the arena.
Listen, he
They're
works for the
security.
arena.
They don't
He
work
does
for the
security.
Empire. They work for the arena.
He does security. Maybe he doesn't even watch football.
Yeah, we've seen that. Like Joe and I, we know a lot of the different guys that run and work at some of those facilities. Even guys that are the referees for the game do other jobs in other spots. The security is the arena security.
Right.
It's not like the Albany Empire's personal security. So a lot of them, I can be in the age of the guy, I can totally understand. But he's sitting there signing
can't
autographs
get
too. You still would be like, sir, I gotta go. And when she says, "Oh, I'm the owner," I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry, but we'll still escort you to the side.
Right.
We're going to be getting ready, though, sir.
He was just trying to do his job, honestly.
Yeah. He could have. It could have got worse. He could have went crazy. You know what I mean? He could have went ape shit on the guy. Yeah, exactly. Something nutty. So I think he handled it well. But as far as Stafford though, with those guys too, they need a lot. Quarterback one thing, but who knows?
In tonight's news, that same security guard got fired.
Hey, I called it.
There you go.
I called it.
We knew it, right?
It's not official, Cody. I just made that up.
Well, he should. He probably
That'd
should.
be funny if that was like frontline news.
Here's the thing, as I understand it on both sides, like Antonio Brown being the owner, like I obviously the security guard was trying to clear the field because they were going to start.
Yeah.
It was time to and Brown's just because some dude in a floral suit says I'm the owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a security guard, I'm just saying, like, some people are like, oh, I know so-and-so as a manager. I know this guy who plays for the team. You can't believe anything anybody says. So this guy honestly was trying to just do his job, and I think he handled it, relatively well.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that Brown didn't lose his shit because that's kind of
what he's known for.
His history.
Right.
His history is blowing up at people, and, I'm surprised you didn't have him on social media and videotaping him the whole time, going live with it.
Well, other people were,
But yeah, I mean, I understand it both ways. But again, you should know he should have some kind of credentials on him too. Like he was just wearing a suit.
They usually do, yeah.
And he didn't. It didn't look like he was wearing anything.
No.
It's really nobody's fault. I mean, if anything, like, okay, the guy, at least the guy's going to do his job.
Right.
At the very
Exactly.
least.
That's the one thing. So technically, should he be fired? Probably not, though. Too. But Mike
But
Quora, those
Antonio
guys,
Brown.
the owners, you do have to have credentials to be down there
Right.
on the sideline. So, all right. Next, we got the Miami Dolphins. Joe, what do you think is a need here for these guys?
The Dolphins don't even pick in the first round either, so that kind of hurts. They
Yeah.
had to forfeit their
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't that a kick into the balls there? Yeah, sorry, we're taking that away.
Yep.
So for the Dolphins, they're an interesting team because they do pick in the second round. Like, what could they look forward to? And hopefully, at that point, when you don't have a first round pick, it kind of, I'm not going to say it ruins your draft, but it definitely doesn't get you off on the right foot here. So for the Dolphins, they could go a multitude of ways. Like listen, they've managed to add to that receiving talent. Tua as a quarterback, he's coming back, and I know a lot of people are still a little nervous or a little concerned about his concussions that he sustained so far. And honestly, Tua even came out in an article and said that he actually did come close to retiring. He did actually think about it. So it's not like he was kind of like, no, who cares? I'm just going to do what I want to do, and I'm not worried about it. He actually did put some deep thought into it, and he comes back, and he said that, he's taking some steps, and I've heard this, like he's taking jujitsu right now and learning how to fall correctly, depending on like where your body's getting tossed or where your body's getting hit towards, and how to fall to where you can try to prevent that from happening again. So there's that part of it. Now, could this be actually a spot where in the second round, maybe the Dolphins think about taking a quarterback? I mean, we've heard rumors about Hendon Hooker slipping into the second round, probably most likely a third or fourth round pick, but it wouldn't be crazy. It wouldn't be crazy for Miami if he does slide there. I know he's a little bit older. He's 25 years old, but still young. And, maybe they add some insurance to that quarterback spot there for Tua. They already have a pretty young team, pretty stout on offensive line. They could add to that for sure in the second round because there's plenty of depth there to take in the second round.
All right, Cody.
Other than that, defense all around.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I was trying not to interrupt. So, if you look at the team, it's pretty solid all around, but the interior of the D line could maybe bolster that up a bit. It's the second round, so if you're getting like very good depth pieces, that's still not a bad thing. But maybe you could get a starter at your arguably weakest position right now, which is tight end, where you just don't really have a guy who I'd even be comfortable as a starter day one. And maybe some of these really good ones slip. Maybe you want the pure receiving tight end, if say like a Laporta. He's supposed to go kind of high. Maybe they like him. They want to bring in a receiving threat who can create mismatches. This team, they've done a very good job at strengthening the secondary. It's not complete, but it is a very good defense, a very good offense that just fine-tune tight ends. You're not going to get a superstar running back at that point. Those guys are probably going to be gone, so.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one, too. Probably tight end is a good spot for them. I said maybe offensive line a little bit, too, to help out. I mean, they did just get even Connor Williams for the center, too, but behind him, you've got Dan Feeney, too. Both of them injury-prone, so even if they go center at one point for offensive line to help out, I think that would be beneficial for them. Next up, we've got the Minnesota Vikings here.
Yeah, you guys kicking it off?
You can kick it off, Cody. Why not?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So, immediately as I look at this team, you need more weapons alongside of Justin Jefferson. KJ Osborne showed that he can be a very good wide receiver, but that's literally all they have. They got former first rounder Jalen Reagor. That's basically their starting slot right now, and that's not good. That's horrible. You could go to the free agency right now and get someone better than Jalen Reagor. It's not hard. So that's something they got to address right away. I can see maybe strengthen up the linebacking core a bit, but it's just not as desperate, and get yourself another dominant edge rusher to go alongside Hunter, who is just seemingly ageless on the edge. Puts up almost 10 sacks every season. Very reliable. But Davenport's not going to be the guy to really help you out much.
It's interesting with the Vikings because they haven't picked high in the first round since Kirk Cousins has been there. He hasn't been the quarterback that can put them over the top, but he's also been good enough to keep them in the 20s every first round. I think this is an opportunity where another quarterback could go for Minnesota and look into the future, because they're never really going to ever be picking high as long as they have Kirk Cousins as their quarterback, because he's just good enough to keep him out of that realm of possibility. So I wouldn't be shocked if Minnesota gets to this pick and they're like, you know what, we really like so-and-so, whether it be Hendon Hooker, whether it be someone else that might slide. They might pull the trigger and go for a quarterback here. Looking towards the future, because Kirk Cousins, listen, he makes a lot of money. This makes a lot of sense financially. You can move on from Kirk Cousins after a year, groom the quarterback behind him for a year, and be ready to go forward after that. So that's something that I've kind of thought about Minnesota. And honestly, like, they're a team that's kind of always been on the fringe, but has never been able to put it all together to go to the big dance. So why not start to like remodel the kitchen a little bit here and get the quarterback that you really believe in, or maybe slide to you, and look forward to the rest of the draft to build on other needs.
All right, yeah, I think Cody had it with a little bit with linebacker. I think they should go linebacker in this one. And I think either way, though, the way that the Minnesota Vikings handle the draft, wherever you said they pick high a lot, but I think they always draft well. They always find a way to get that guy. They're like, oh man, he was still there.
They don't pick high.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they don't. They're further back. So they do what they can with what they do, and I think they do it well. So I think whoever they pick, I think they're gonna pretty much handle business on this one.
All right, next we got the New England Patriots, and as I look at the team, looks like it's pretty comfortable on offense. I don't really expect them to shake things up, at least in the first round. Maybe they could look to running back later on, but that's not your most glaring need. You've already kind of addressed it in the offseason, and I think their biggest need is just going to have to be, you got to fix the secondary. You don't have any real threats anywhere in your secondary. Your safeties are just okay. Your corners aren't very good. And if your secondary is not good, it doesn't matter if your pass rush is fast, because the guys barely can cover for a split second out there. They'll get torched in the secondary with what they got out there right now. They got to go out and get a number one corner, and this is a very good draft to do it. Me and Joe have already talked about all of the corner prospects that are littered throughout this draft. They could completely retool the secondary. Will they do it? Nobody knows what's going through Belichick's head, so it's honestly anyone's guess.
The interesting thing is the last couple of drafts, the Patriots have been known to not let anything leak or any kind of rumors swirl around. The last two drafts, though, they have. And both times, they've been correct. And this year, it seems like they are absolutely in love with Zay Flowers. Looks like he could potentially be the target for them if he was to be there for their pick. And I honestly think that that's something that they could definitely utilize in this offense, because they have a lot of bigger receivers, but no real explosion. Like Devontae Parker played well last year. Not great, but well. Kendrick Bourne is another guy who's kind of below average, so type of receiver. I thought he was going to be better with this offense, but he didn't really make a huge impact. Juju, I know he's the recent signing and everyone's excited about him, but another guy who doesn't have blazing speed, who's more like a possession receiver. And so I think with an addition of Zay Flowers, if that is who they're looking for and he's there, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility where they just go ahead and take him and they get another super quick and fast type of receiver where they can utilize him anywhere like a chess piece. Other than that, I think they could definitely utilize, because there's guys that are getting up there in age, especially on the offensive line. David Andrews, who's been there forever. Maybe they look to improve on that. Riley Reif, they just signed as a free agent. Not a stellar dude, but still capable. And then defensively, like Cody, like you were saying, like I think corner definitely could be a target. But I don't know. It depends on who's available for them. You know what I mean? Like if they have a guy like, let's just say like Joey Porter. Joey Porter would fit well in that scheme. They have a heavy zone coverage type of scheme, and he's physical. It's something that they really do like in some of their corners. Feisty, physical type of guys. So that's another option as well.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys on probably every single spot too. I was thinking offensive line, wide receiver too, again, because they're at a spot where maybe they could just get somebody else. Because again, nobody is really afraid of a Kendrick Bourne, and Devontae Parker's getting older too out there. So I mean, they could use another a weapon to help Mac Jones out, or Zappy if he ends up winning the spot. Who knows? With New England, because Bill Belichick is not exactly said, oh, it's Mac Jones' job altogether. But secondary, yes, but I think he also even on DN possibly too. I mean, Dietrich Wise was one of my guys that I liked too when he was kind of an under the radar guy further in the depth chart. But now that he's been kind of that starter, hasn't really done a whole lot and very effective up there. So I think if they get somebody else in there to help out too, that could be great for Matt Judon on the other side too. So,
all right, on to our next team where we got the New York Giants. We're finally down to a team I think me and Jimmy know a lot about, and I mean Joe does too. But it's not his team.
Not his team. Cody,
Doesn't have to be.
Why don't you kick it off, Cody?
Yeah, so a lot of people will be like, "Oh, you guys need a superstar wide receiver," and I'm just like, I don't really think that should be the number one thing we address. We have a pretty solid wide receiving core. You went out and got Waller, so I don't think weapons for Jones is going to be an issue. But what could be an issue is our offensive line. Our center is bad. I don't like Ben Bredesen. I don't think he should be a starter. I barely think he should be a backup.
He was a huge fan of yours,
So,
Cody.
I definitely don't want to see him
Unbelievable.
starting on day one. I don't particularly want Josh Azidu. I'd be fine with replacing him as a starter as well. And I want to like Cordell Flott. But I like, as a number 2 corner, absolutely not.
Yeah, I
He
think I
should
agree
not.
with you on those ones, Cody. Again, same thing. Offensive line, they've gotten better, but now with the guys that they filled in right now, it's not good enough. They need to help that out. Corners, again, Adoree Jackson, has been fairly well at times when he's healthy. But the real star on that defense there is Xavier McKinney in the secondary. So when your safety is a better coverage guy and type of guy than your actual corners, it's a problem. Darnay Holmes is okay at times, nothing special. I would like to even get them to get one more pass rush and maybe do something in the linebacker position too as well. They got some veterans here, but I would like a better spot here too. And wide receiver, they've done something with nothing last year, but it would be nice to get a star over there or somebody that can beat the
difference maker.
defense.
Yeah, for me, it's easily interior offensive line. I mean, that's it all day long, and honestly, it's been like that for the last 5 years. So, I remember the draft when me and Jim were watching it, and Zach Martin was the guy to get, and that year they took Odell Beckham Jr., the flashy pick, instead of the pick that they should have done. So this year, I look forward to the Giants to maybe reversing that curse and instead of going wide receiver, because I don't think that any of these receivers should go in the first round, but they will. But for them, they could get themselves a serious workhorse. Hopefully, if he slides to them, Osiris Torrance is my favorite pick for the Giants. I think that him in interior, it just boosts this offensive line tremendously. And I know it's only one player, but man, is he good. So I definitely could see that happening.
All right. I think we're all set with that. We can move
Bring us in,
on
Cody.
to the New York Jets for our next one. And this is a team that we're all sitting together assuming, all right, Rodgers is going to be here. Like, it's got to happen. I don't know what this team will do if that trade somehow doesn't go through. But, like, I mean, right now,
I will be shocked. I will be floored. I will
Yep.
not. I won't
It'll
even.
be such a
It'll be
Jets
one of
thing.
those things like it's an April Fool's joke. You'll be like,
Yeah.
pop up like breaking news. Rodgers
It's
not
happening.
going to the Jets. You know that
He goes back into the darkness.
I cannot. I honestly can. I won't be able to believe it, even if it is true.
Go back
Yeah,
on
I
my
mean,
kid.
this team, let's assume the trade goes through because it's just got to happen. They might just fix up that O-line just the last little bit. You know, you don't have a great right tackle. You fix that position, you give Rodgers, you already got the weapons. You know, your defense is pretty stout as it is. You know, just fix that one position, and this will be a pretty scary team. You can maybe address some defensive depth in like the second and third round. But right tackle, like this is a very good draft in terms of tackles. Like get the iron while it's hot. Don't let these players go because you're like, oh, well, we could get this guy is better value. Like, screw that. Get your tackle, and you're not going to win the Super Bowl, but you can pretend that you think you're going to win the Super Bowl for a while if you get that tackle.
Yeah, and the whole the whole conversation about left and right tackles, what's more important? There's no such thing anymore. Like, you need a really good right tackle, you need a really good left tackle, and they're both going to get paid if they're that good. The problem with the Jets, though, is injuries. Mekhi Becton, every single year injured. You know, Lincoln Tomlinson's a good, solid free agent, but you could definitely upgrade the center if they view it, if they want to this year. And right tackle, Max Mitchell, you know, you got to remember, like, this kid is still developing. He could end up being a really good, legit right tackle, but he's another guy that got injured last year. So with injuries happening every single year to these guys on the offensive line, it's not going to hurt if you draft a tackle, even if he's in waiting. Even if you don't rush him out there to start right away, you could, if depending on who's available, because there's a lot of like premier left tackles that played predominant on that side of the ball, but there's also a couple guys like Darnell Rhett and Anton Harrison that are right tackles, you know, and that's pretty much what they played in college. So you could have a really good, legit shot at either one of them. And if they're there, even if a Broderick Jones is available, take them, because there's no guarantee, as you know, Jet fans, that Mekhi Becton will be there week 1.
Yeah, I agree. I think offensive line has got to be the way to go for all the points you guys brought up too. Same thing. Defense, I think, will be good again. Aaron Rodgers there as quarterback. He needs protection. He's going to bitch and complain about it. Needs it. He's got some good weapons. Hopefully, Brees Hall stay healthy too as well as a running back. So I think offensive line is good.
One thing that just popped in my head here is, as we're looking at this roster for the Jets, I actually think that part of this trade will be Corey Davis being sent to Green Bay, because
Saying that for a bit.
the contract that he has still, and they just got Lazard basically on the same kind of a deal, so they're going to look to unload that contract, look to unload him, because basically Lazard is going to replace him. So if that sweetens the pot a little bit, I don't know if they've probably already have talked about that. Maybe that's still in the works, and they're still not agreeing on what draft pick to give in terms of like future. But again, it makes almost too much sense for that to be part of the deal.
Next up, we got the New Orleans Saints. I'll start off with this one here. I think they could use another weapon at wide receiver here, but for Derek Carr to have. But I think they go defensive side. That's probably a bigger need. They have a lot of older players on here, and a lot of even the free agents they filled in are veterans and things. So I think they need to get some more youth here and start building up on that defense when some of these guys start to leave.
You know, looking at the roster, they've always been pretty stout. They've always had a pretty solid defense, and really the only thing that they're missing right now is with Davenport kind of leaving in free agency, that edge player. They need another edge player. I don't know if there'll be one that they like enough that slides to them, but it would definitely be a position that I would look out for them to kind of attack there. Other than that, like offensive guard. There should be a really good guard for them to grab, and maybe kind of to go into that direction as well.
Yeah, I could see this team perhaps maybe trying to strengthen up that secondary. They've done a great job. You got very good safeties already. You've got Lattimore. You got Roby to help out in the slot, but just one more corner to really lock down that other side so you're not getting torched down one side, and this team will just be very complete. You got a very good offensive line. You got great weapons. Like, this team is ready to win now. This is the kind of team that Derek Carr has been waiting for years. So I just hope that everyone, Michael Thomas included, can stay healthy, and this team can really start to hit expectations so that people stop saying, oh, Derek Carr, he's just not that good. Oh, he's not even the top 10 QB. But, this is just, he needs this to really get a little more respect put on his name, I guess, even by these analysts who just go off public opinion.
Yeah, Michael Thomas, too, is super excited to work with Derek Carr. Like, when he heard that Carr was coming to the Saints, he was so ecstatic. He hit up Derek Carr first. He's like, yo, bro, when can we go throwing? I'm ecstatic. Let's get to work. It's amazing how the morale jumped for the Saints, knowing that now they have a true quarterback to run the team. And how quickly Thomas was like, I'm good to go. I'm healthy. Let's go. I almost want to think that if it wasn't Carr and they just had another mediocre quarterback, that Thomas would be like, I'm still hurt. I can't do anything. Sorry. And the other interesting point that I want to make, too, is I've seen a lot of other mock drafts come out with this idea that, oh, the Saints, sitting there, they got to add more weaponry. And it's not the kind of weaponry you're thinking. They're thinking tight end, actually. And I kind of go against the grain on that whole idea because they just paid money to Juwan Johnson, who's the go-to guy now at that tight end spot, and they have Adam Troutman, who is a very, very solid all-around tight end. So in the first round, no. Maybe in the later part of the draft, but overall, I mean, I don't know what you guys think about that. I just kind of was balked at it. I'm like, what? Why would you go that direction?
They signed Juwan Johnson to a fucking extension. There's no way they would then draft a tight
what I
end
thought.
Yeah,
that's
make
nuts.
sense. All right, next up we've got the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, the really strong team, almost Super Bowl champions here, made it to the big game.
Almost.
A lot of they're solid on defense and offense. I mean, it's sickening to see, but so I think for me, I'm looking towards the future. We always hear about maybe Elaine Johnson or Jason Kelsey. How long are they going to keep playing? So I think they invest in the future and they go for a right tackle or one of these offensive linemen.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, too, is now that they're picking lower with this pick, it's almost like, a roll of the dice. It's almost like they got to gamble a little bit because with that 10th pick, I mean, they literally could go any way they want to. They have free reign. They already have a stout team, a team that's going to win next year, and a team where they have that luxury. They have 2 first-rounders for a team that was in the Super Bowl. They got 2 first-rounders. This is unprecedented. Yeah. This does not happen. So they could literally take whoever the hell they wanted with the 10th pick, whether they believe in one of these defensive edge rushers or a defensive tackle or even if they wanted Bijan Robinson at 10 because they know he's not going to be there when they pick second time around. And then they could address the offensive line with that second overall pick. In the first round. So, I mean, they could go a lot of different ways. And even if they don't go Bijan, maybe, just maybe, if he slides to them, because we know a lot of people don't value that position that high, even though he's worth it. If he slid down to Bijan, it'd be the steal of the draft.
Yeah, these guys, if they play the first round right, this team can just get even scarier because they have a couple spots to fill. You could maybe... Your wide receiver room isn't the greatest. You got Devonta, you got A.J. Brown. That's really it. Zacchaeus, he's not it.
Zacchaeus.
He should not be a starting slot receiver. He should be a bench player. At absolute I was going to say blessed. Absolute best. And defense, it's already a very strong defense. Just maybe fix up free safety. You could almost even go like Brian Branch maybe even early. Have him hop in at safety.
Yeah.
You're great there.
Yep.
And then if Bijan's there later, cool. If he's not, maybe you like a slot receiver there. Maybe you like, there's a lot of good players for that slot spot right now.
None of them are worth it.
No. But maybe the Eagles think they're worth it. At least more worth it than Olamide Zacchaeus.
Olamide Zacchaeus, I mean, I'll kind of push back on that a little bit because when he was in Atlanta, I noticed that he was one of those kind of guys that were overlooked big time and was used. I also know that the Eagles love Quez Watkins. They love his development so far. They do believe in him. Not to say that it's not possible. I definitely think they could upgrade that position for sure. I'm just saying that maybe not in the first round because they know that they could make their team so much better if they add like a different position group, possibly. That's all.
All right, you got anything to pitch in?
No, I think I already added my couple cents on that one.
All right, we'll hop into the Pittsburgh Steelers then. And this is a team, they just kind of got to iron out the final kinks, in my opinion. You know, offensively, you really believe in Kenny Pickett, so back it up. Get him some extra blockers, you know. Your tackles are nothing special. So go out, get some good tackles, and really give Pickett a chance to show you what he's got. And he showed flashes this season. I mean, you work with him, dial down the interceptions a bit, you know, a lot of it. And, you know, you can have a pretty good team going forward. You already got the defense that's like playoff caliber just about all the way around. So just strengthen up your O-line, and if Kenny Pickett is what they think he can be, then this team has a legitimate playoff shot. You just traded for, you know, the best wide receiver ever, Allen Robinson. Never disappoints almost every year.
Retract that comment.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one too, Cody. I was looking at the offensive line; it's not very impressive here, and Pickett's going to need that protection to get anything done. And you know, then even as another side piece, give him another weapon too. I would like even some more guys, and like you said, in addition of Allen Robinson on top of that. You know, so I think that's what they'll do.
This team has always been known as a defensive team, and they have been really good. They have been pretty stout, but there's definitely a little bit of holes on that defensive side of the ball. Definitely a linebacker was one of these weaknesses that they've had for quite some time. I mean, obviously with Devin Bush, who sadly had a major injury, couldn't really come back, wasn't really the same player. They moved on from him. So that's a position I definitely think that they could target, and they don't have a first round pick technically, but they do pick top of the second round, so it's right after. I see them going that way, but also one of the bigger needs is offensive tackle. Interior line is pretty solid, pretty good, but those tackle positions are worrisome. I know they kind of keep preaching that they like Okorafor at right tackle, but he just looked like a sieve last year and just couldn't stop any real good pass rusher. So I don't know if there's going to be a tackle worth taking at that late, because tackles are going to fly off the board. I'm sorry. They just are. They are an important position, and a lot of teams always need them. So it would be amazing if maybe like an Anton Harrison was still available. They would scoop him up, something like that. I don't think they're going to reach, though, for a tackle. So I think, if anything, they'll go defensive, they'll go linebacker, and if by chance there's a decent enough offensive tackle, they'll take him.
All right, next we got the Seattle Seahawks. Cody, take it away.
All right, so let me swap that. All right, so this is a team that, despite their playoff success, I believe they have 2 first-round picks.
Yes.
So they could really, strengthen this core and get this team up to that next level. You know, a lot of people, I think Joe and I had even entertained the thought that maybe they get their QB of the future because, Geno's, he's not a young buck. These 3 seasons are about the maximum you'll get from him from just an age standpoint. But if this team's looking to make that push right now, there are a couple spots they should probably address. I mean, the right side of their offensive line just needs a lot of work. So if you could maybe hit up one of those spots, draft someone that can start at, say, like right tackle, that'd be real good. But you also need help for Lockett and Metcalf. D. Eskridge is right now your 3rd wide receiver, and that just ain't going to cut it. It's just flat out not going to work at this.
You're really hammering on
NFL
these
level.
slot receivers, Cody,
Yeah,
on every
I
team.
know.
You really
They're
gotta think
short,
it's the slot
like you.
receivers.
No.
They have a lower center of gravity, Cody.
Come on.
All right, well, if you guys got so
I
much
agree,
to
though.
say,
But I
let's
think the
swap
same
over.
thing. I think offensive line has got to be where they go to, and then maybe linebacker too. I mean, they're so desperate enough they go and get Bobby Wagner back, just to have one last hurrah for the team. I think that's one spot they could look at too as well. What do you think, Joe?
I think only interior offensive line. They really do like both tackles. Charles Cross is amazing, and Abraham Lucas ended up playing better than expected. They didn't think that he would actually win the starting job, and once he did, they just fell in love with him. Very long limbs and everything, and tremendous player, and he's only going to get better going into his second year. For defensively, this is the one spot where I think they could definitely go upgrade in terms of like D tackle or go into maybe even getting younger. Because Bobby Wagner came back and that's great and all, but he's not going to be the answer for them because of his age. So maybe look even into bringing in the next guy to maybe groom him behind Bobby Wagner. Other than that, corner. You need someone else. I know they got Patrick Peterson and all, but you need youth. The guy's only going to be there for one more year. He's a stopgap player, and maybe you take a chance on a corner that. And I know Seattle's done this before. Like Emmanuel Forbes. Like me and Cody both really believe in his coverage ability. We believe in everything, but the only big knock on him is weight. He's 166, very light but very long and tall. A corner that they really do, that kind of body type they really do like. I don't think his ball skills are a problem. It's just that weight. If they can get that weight up and get him to be a little bit more physical, then I think he's going to be amazing for them. So that's another position I could see them going.
All right. I think we're on to our next team here. We got the 49ers as we're starting to come up on the tail end. We're on our last handful of teams here.
All right, I think for them, they could go left tackle situation here. Again, Trent Williams has been a great, tackle throughout his career here. But again, he's long in the tooth. I think it's a good spot for them to get a new guy for there in that spot to cover the blind spot of whoever the quarterback might be. But it looks like it might be Brock Purdy for them. So besides that, maybe a couple other weapons, maybe something even on defense. But, they always have a stout defense here. And with the addition of Javon Hargrave, too, that's pretty scary on their point of view, too.
Yeah, I would agree with tackle, but I would say more to the right tackle position. Trent Williams, they gave him a long-term extension. Yeah, there's no guarantee that he is going to last the whole extension. He could retire at will any time. But I think he's in for the long haul. But right tackle is a big concern going into this season. Other than that, you look at their defense. Now, they've had to make a few changes here. Javon Hargrave now takes over at D tackle. Their D-line is still stout, but the interesting thing is they bring over Clelin Ferrell, former 4th overall selection by the Raiders, a guy that was kind of his position always changed a lot. So I'm intrigued by now that he's going to have a legit position to develop in. I wonder with the Niners if he's going to actually have some production now. And if he does, good on them. Other than that, this defense is pretty stout all around. They got some veterans still there, but also they could prepare for the future. And maybe if they find a corner that they really do enjoy, I think he's going to fit right. I see them going in that direction as well.
All right, a couple things where I could see this team going. I think they're fairly comfortable at wide receiver. A lot of the times you're going to see these guys in 2 tight end sets. Anyways, they like to kind of bluff the power and then let Kittle get a one-on-one matchup. Maybe they even pick up a complimentary guy to him. There are a handful of very good tight ends. Maybe you grab a guy so you can run more of those 2 tight end sets and really just play into your strengths. If you've got that, you guys have already touched on offensive line. Maybe they could look into just some better receivers past the first 2. But I think Jennings did just fine with what he was asked upon last season. So I think we're on to our next team, which is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll let you guys kick that one off.
It's going to be a tough team, I think, to gauge. Now your Tom Brady list, you've got Baker Mayfield. You still have those weapons there still. So, but how effective is everybody going to be? So it's going to be tough. You need that offensive line to stay healthy to help out Baker Mayfield on this one. But they still have that issue here. I'm not really sold on Kate Otten as their tight end, and I think they could use a little more, on the tight end situation, and then even running backs. I think they could go somewhere with that even too on that, but I don't know. I'm a big question mark with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not sure what they're really going to do with this offense all around.
I mean, the biggest problem that they had last year, Tom Brady will tell you, interior offensive line was atrocious. That's something that they really should target on, really start to kind of rebuild that offensive line up. Listen, they got really good tackles. They got a veteran tackle they just signed in Matt Filer, who's going to play right side, and then Tristan Wirfs, obviously. So those are their strengths. They really need to rebuild that interior offensive line for whatever quarterback they decide on, whether that be a quarterback via trade that they get, or they're going to really rock with Mayfield or Kyle Trask. But other than that, I think
then they go quarterback.
I think bringing in Chase Edmonds kind of helps out that the running back, and we saw Rachaad White kind of blow up last year. Like, yeah, he was in a rotational role with Leonard Fournette, but he still played admirably well, and so much so that as we got closer to the end of the season, started to kind of take over those starting reps. So that's something to look forward to. Defensively, this is kind of where I'm a little worried for Tampa Bay, is because you have a head coach that is so defensive driven that he might not do what's right and take the offensive lineman and might just try to keep building that defense up. So that's a little bit of a worry for Tampa Bay fans, but hopefully he does the right thing, goes offense.
All right, I think you guys have done a very good job at touching on the needs of Tampa, so I think I'll just get us ready into our next team.
Mm-hmm.
As we got our Tennessee Titans. If you guys would kick that off so I can pull it up on my phone, that would be amazing.
I think they got to go wide receiver, first of all. I mean, to get some weapons here, too, because, again, they don't have any. Ryan Tannehill, they're at the helm. How much longer do you have until maybe Malik Willis takes over for them? Derrick Henry's not getting any older. He can't exactly be your they're not getting younger, rather. He can't exactly be your workhorse for you all the time.
And that's the curious thing about him is, like, he might be traded, too. Like, there's been those rumors since 3 weeks ago, where they were like, oh, he's on the trade block. We're like, wait, what? Like, because this might be the time where they know they have a lot of needs. It's not like they're like one or two players away from returning back to division winners.
Oh, yeah.
So is this the time where they utilize a Derrick Henry asset to maybe get another high pick? Maybe if you could, I mean, the greatest thing would be low first-round pick. If you could get a low first round, maybe even in a day 2 and a day 3 pick, that would be something that they need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just for me, though, eye-opening last year was the fact that wide receivers, Kyle Phillips was getting a lot of, looks and stuff like that. And if that's your guy, you got issues here in offense.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, receivers, it's always been an issue for this team. Like, and even though it's an issue for this team, they still traded A.J. Brown. What are you doing?
Yeah, so that's
just
what I mean.
Pay the man. You should have paid him to keep him there. And then draft another receiver. You drafted a guy that was kind of similar, like Treylon Burks. Not exact, obviously, but you try to replace him with a rookie that still needs development, still needs time to grow, and you don't have anybody else. So that's a critical position to address. Also, because they have so many needs, offensive line is terrible. Like, I'm sorry, Nicholas Petit-Fier is not going to be your franchise guy for the right tackle spot. Andre Dillard they bring in from the Eagles, and then the interior is just it's something to be desired. Like, it's really not all that. They definitely need to make upgrades there. What are we doing with Ryan Tannehill? I just got a question about him. Like, is he really just going to be a one and done type of player for Tennessee and they move on? Maybe, finally Malik Willis gets his shot the following season. Do they believe in him? He's a guy that I had coming out in the draft, and I liked him a lot. I had him as like my number 1 coming out. That was a weak quarterback year, but everybody needed development across the board, every quarterback. And Malik Willis, he needed a lot. So is it too soon to hand the keys over to the Benz, to Malik? I think it might be. So And then you go defense. They've lost, Bud Dupree in free agency. They've lost other guys in free agency. Their secondary's still pretty good. Like, they got young corners and they got some young players there, but they need to restock at linebacker for sure.
All right. I think you guys basically touched on just about every position.
Hey, why
so
don't you kick us
I'll
off here
start
then
us off
for
on
the-
our last team of the night.
Your favorite
All
team.
right, yes.
The
The
Commanders, who, I
Under new
love
ownership,
I
right?
love so much, for sure.
Yeah.
So this team is they're actually pretty good just about all around, but you need that, real QB to take you to the next level. As much as, before they're like, oh, we're going to rock with Sam Howell. Like, that guy wasn't even that good at North Carolina, so, good luck with that. Other than that, maybe they could strengthen up their secondary a bit. But, they have an excellent D-line, very good offensive line, good weapons. Like, this team is ready to win. I don't want to just say they're a QB away, but and you get a quarterback, and this team can at least get into some good conversations on just how good can they be when healthy.
Yeah, I still think they could address corner. I still don't see any standout guy that's going to make a difference there in the secondary. Safety is also another big, still a big need. So basically, the whole secondary. They could always upgrade the whole secondary. Other than that, linebacker, they kind of put Band-Aid jobs in that position. They bring Cody Barton over from Seattle, a guy who kind of flourished in Seattle and now trying to make a name for himself. Other than that, like you look at the offense, and just like you said, Cody, like quarterback, like I'm sorry, I'm not a real big believer in Sam Howell being the answer. I know he had limited success in the time that he did show up on the football field and scored some points, and it was all nice in that, but I definitely didn't mention him as one of those quarterbacks. I think he's going to end up being a backup, career backup at best. And Jacoby Brissett, this is the interesting part of it. This is why I don't think they go quarterback, is because they signed Brissett to be insurance. And because he's that veteran presence, because he's the guy that he's going to come in, do his due diligence, do his work, and he's going to be there just in case. Sam Howell fails, Brissett's going to be your guy for the remaining of the year. So maybe they pursue quarterback next year, which is there's going to be 2 stellar quarterbacks coming out in 2024. And Washington might have to trade up then as well. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot to go off of for Washington. Don't have a lot of needs in my eyes, but at the same time, they're kind of, underperforming this year.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think they're going to go defensive side of the ball. They tend to trend towards that way too as well. You got to think too, their head coach this is probably his last year too, because again, it's going to be new ownership. He's already been kind of on the hot seat already. Now this move forward with Sam Howell, and then you've got Jacoby Brissett. Like you said, it's the perfect time to bridge to, here we go, new coaching staff next year. They go and draft their quarterback that they want. And I just think that's the way it's going to roll for this year. Again, grab somebody in the secondary to help out the defense, see what they got, what they can do, compete in this division, because the division, you're not sure what you're going to get, even though, the Eagles are always going to perform. Cowboys going to be what they're going to be. And we'll see what happens out of the Giants and stuff with them. But, it's going to be a tough division. They're going to compete. But I think it's sad that the whole Taylor Heineke thing, just already came and passed through, because it seemed like they were fooling around with him too much, and they had something there, and now they just let it walk right out the door. So
yeah, that's the sad part, is like for Taylor Heineke, he never really was, like, he was given a chance, but then it is almost like Washington never really truly believed in him as the quarterback, which is amazing. Because
his teammates did.
He was productive.
Yeah.
His teammates were all behind it. They were behind his back 110%, and he won games. Mm-hmm. Isn't that what the NFL is all about? You need to win games. Why not just? I'm just surprised they moved on from him, didn't keep him there, and make him their franchise quarterback, at least for short term. Mm-hmm. Would have made more sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. There's our NFL draft team needs for all of 32 teams, even though some of them aren't going to be drafting in the first round. There's a handful there.
We'll talk a little bit about them. Why not?
But yeah, why not? They still need people. You know, I mean, a lot of those teams that because they're not drafting in the first round is why they need players and things like that because they had traded those picks away, to try and get.
And we all need people,
championships and things
just like the
that.
32
we need
teams.
People
We all need people.
are the luckiest people.
That's right. We need you guys. We need you guys out there to do us a huge favor. Head over to YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. Let you guys know when we go live. And you can also follow us on anywhere you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, you name it. Drop a follow there as well. Help us grow this football community. Give a like button. Comment down below if you enjoyed the show. And share it. See you around.
Absolutely. See you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.